Ozempic drug, the weight loss drugs have been just all over our For You pages. Serena Williams did an ad. Chelsea Fagan is sharing her story. Trisha Paytas has even gone on them, even though they swore they wouldn't, right? Okay. So if you guys don't know, this happened where during the Super Bowl, this ad ran.
Yes, I'm on Roe. They say GLP-1s for weight loss is a shortcut. It's not, it's science. After kids, it's the medicine my body needed. GLP-1s helped me lose 31 pounds. One app to hit my goals. This is healthcare. This is Roe. I'm Serena Williams, and I'm a real Roe member.
Okay, so I will say, I think there is a possibility for it to be healthcare. And I will say that most of how it will be used will probably not be healthcare. I will say this is the dilemma between modern medicine being this great life-saving care and modern medicine being used to continue the cope instead of the healing necessary for human beings to find joy. So we do philosophy through pop culture. We're a philosophy channel. This goes back to plastic surgery versus gender affirming care. Gender affirming care that requires plastic surgery is life-saving. Not all gender affirming care is just for trans people. Cis, trans, all human beings might require, regardless of gender identity, some variation of gender affirming care. Men, women, they, them, cis, trans, it doesn't matter. And there is a big industry in which plastic surgery is used as a cope to exploit people for their vulnerabilities and insecurities, and they're making billions of dollars through that. So we have to be able to hold both things available to us, even though they feel contradictory, and acknowledge that once again, why you want to get plastic surgery, why you want to go into GLP, why you want to do these things. It's very dependent on the why. This is philosophy. I have a friend. They're always going back and forth about plastic surgery. And I always say to them, I want you to get plastic surgery so passionate and excited the way you were when you bought your car. And you're like, oh my God, I love my car. I bought my car. It's the best car. I'm so excited. Okay. I want you to be that enthused when you got your first tattoo, when you chose the college of your dreams, when you got married, when you did whatever you did in your life, whatever you're going to do in your life. You knew with confidence, this is what I wanted, zero doubts. I want you to have zero doubts about that nose job. Because I think when you have zero doubts, you're really in charge of that decision. When you have the doubts and the insecurity and it's plaguing you, I think that's the pressures of the world coming inside and making you do something or encouraging you to do something you don't really want to do or will really work out for you. I've been told my whole life to get a nose job. Even when I was 6 years old, I explicitly remember kindergarten class and a little girl coming up to me and saying, why is your nose so big? I've been told my whole life to get a nose job. I get told it now, current day at 36 years old. And let me tell you, I looked into it, I researched, I talked to a doctor about it, and I made the decision not to get a nose job. That was the right decision for me. It might be a better decision for you to get a nose job, so I support you. But for Brittany, I didn't get a nose job. Now, you might be saying, oh, Brittany, that's because you love yourself and you have confidence in yourself. And that's why no one should get a nose job, because if they just love themselves, they wouldn't need one. I think you need to hold in your mind that some people will truly love themselves and still get a nose job. And you have to remember that the reason I don't get a nose job is, yes, I love myself, but that's not why I don't get it. I don't get it because there's no guarantee I would look better. Now, if you told me, girl, for this little amount of time I could be on earth, that I could look a little cuter, because, I'm always trying to look cuter, then I would get that nose job. But when you have a nose this big and nostrils this wide, the chances of a good looking nose job, in my opinion, would enhance me. I think I'd look just the same. And I'm pretty cute. So unless that nose job made me literally so much cuter, not worth the surgery. I don't like going under the knife anyways, right? I don't like being put out like that. No, thank you. So when we have these conversations, I think we should know why we're doing what we're doing. So recently, my viewers asked me to talk about this. Chelsea has been going through it. So I want to come from a deep place of compassion when we get to this. But Chelsea Fagan, who's a financial content creator, has recently kind of been using her platform to kind of vent about her own life in a way. And when she talks about GLP-1s, we can see she's struggling aging. She made a video recently about plastic surgery and how she feels basically pressured. She talks on her TikTok about this, her YouTube channel, just basically pressured to be beautiful because of patriarchy. But I really want to encourage everybody to recognize that they're going through it, and that's so valid, but to maybe recognize how this thing is plaguing you. Like, I wondered why Chelsea's content has shifted so significantly over the last few months, like maybe 6 months or so. I was like, hey, what's going on with her? I think she's scared of aging maybe, or I'm assuming or guessing. I'm trying not to assume, but I think you should deconstruct that. I think she believes there's no way to get plastic surgery for yourself, that it's always the pressure from society. I don't believe that. I think you can get plastic surgery for yourself. I just think people are rarely introspective and extrospective. I think people rarely go to therapy and deconstruct their childhood. They really do the work necessary to heal. So, of course, most people who are making the decision to do plastic surgery aren't doing it out of liberation. But if you liberated your spirit from the construct of your environment, you could make decisions like where you live because you actually want to live there and not because the world is forcing you to. I mean, people talk about plastic surgery like it's anything more different than where you work or if you have kids or anything else. Like, it's the same pressure. Society dictates where you live, what your house should look like, who you should marry, how many kids you should have. And we do our due diligence to deconstruct those things and actually have kids because we want them, and actually get married because we want to, and actually buy a house because we want to. You can do the same thing with plastic surgery. So we'll watch this video in a second, but before we get into that, I want to take you on a journey for Trisha Paytas, because Trisha is also infamously known for being a bigger girl on the internet, a they, them, he, him, so gender fluid. We'll use all pronouns today. And Trisha is also kind of known for saying, like, look, all my life I wanted a magical pill that would make me skinny, and now that it's here, I don't want it. And now they've gone back and decided to go on a GLP-1. But before we get into that, just go on this journey with me through the Trisha journey of talking about skinny versus fat, back and forth, and let's have that conversation.
Skinny, everyone's gonna be like, oh, we'll give you this, this, and this. Look, once I'm skinny, everyone's gonna be like, oh, we'll give you this, this, and this. Look, I'm fighting a good fight for being a fat, okay? Like, I'm successful, I'm on tour, it's unheard of for a fat. But when I'm skinny, TV show, brand deal, Vegas residency, Domino's Pizza, McDonald's commercial. Like, I'm gonna be everywhere. I'll be the evil queen in Snow White too, with slightly better singing, maybe, or equal, I suppose. Once I'm skinny.
So Trisha can be like an inspiration to people. I obviously think she's deeply problematic. I'll explain. And I do think Trisha has a lot of problems, but I think in general, for fact, people on the internet, Trisha has also been a beacon of hope. Trisha's married, they have kids, they have a good life. Now, again, that's sort of a good life based off of a capitalistic dream. I live in a mansion, I'm rich, I'm famous. So it's also like a tainted dream, but it's still a dream. Okay, here we go.
How I look or how I feel. I don't want to change how I look or how I feel.
This says Trisha Paytas shares why she's not on Ozempic. Okay, this is the past.
I don't want to change how I look or how I feel. I know now we have that magical Ozempic shot, but it's like I'm so happy. I don't want to risk anything messing with my mental state right now. I'm just too happy. So just embrace yourself, love yourself, be kind to your bodies. I don't want to change.
Right? So like they're preaching that basically, you know, don't change your bodies, like be happy with yourself. I'm so happy with myself. But now we know she's on it, apparently, according to the internet. It's been all over Reddit. So we'll get into that in a second. Chat says, I just don't want to take a drug purely for cosmetic reasons, especially with such a new drug. It's hard when people in my life and my own healthcare professionals push it for cosmetic reasons, for sure. And I think that's well, first, I want to deconstruct this idea of cosmetic reasons. I don't know what that means. I don't think anyone does anything without it being connected to a bigger thing. So I think cosmetic reasons is a way for us to ignore that we are not, that we just didn't pop into existence. It came from somewhere. So the question is, why do you want to do it? I don't know if I believe in casual, like cosmetic sort of says like there's no underlining help. Like there's not a health issue, but like there might be, right? Like even wanting to take a drug to lose 30 pounds, is that not a health issue? Like if somebody came to me and said, I'm going to go get a prescription from a doctor just for cosmetic reasons, like how is this not a health issue? Like maybe it's a health issue, meaning you shouldn't do it, or maybe it is, but like, I don't know if anyone does anything casual just because. I think it usually stems from something. It's like, oh, I just got this tattoo for fun. Did you? Can you even get a tattoo for fun? Right? You did it for a reason. You got there. Nobody just sits down for no reason. You might think there's no reason, but there's always a reason. So I would almost want us to say, could anyone ever get plastic surgery when they didn't need it? You know, is that even a concept that's real, right? Chat said it did originate developed for type 2 by diabetes. Oh, hey, note. You can get it on NHS for this if you are overweight related, if other weight related comorbidity, oh my God, Brittany, comorbidities, and have tried other treatments and lifestyle changes first. Ooh, hey, noted. Okay, here's more, Trisha.
Snatch. There was one time I did a water fast when I went from like 180 to literally like 169. I think that was the lowest I ever was in my as an adult, and that was in 2019. And I was like abs, like, oh my God, my abs were there. Like, it was crazy just from drinking water. And that year I was like relatively skinny. I mean, but I was like in a mental hospital. I was doing meth and I was on tour, so I was dancing. So like I was like skinny. I didn't think I was at the time. I thought I was so fat. And then I looked back and I was like, oh my God, I was so skinny. But I just remember being so miserable at every stage of that. I just remember like miserable. And I don't know if it was a direct correlation with the weight, because obviously like I thought I was fat back then. But it was interesting that that's the best I've ever looked and like the most miserable I ever was. So I wouldn't trade that. I wouldn't trade what I have now for that body, because I know how like, and feeling that way because I was like so miserable. I wouldn't trade 2024 Trish for 2019 Trish, because like I was actually like mentally unwell and like didn't want to be here and stuff. So I was like,
remember that Trisha Paytas mostly gets associated with bigness or fatness, but Trisha also had multiple boob jobs. They've gotten liposuction done. Like, you know, the biggest thing that Trisha will ever do is not going to be Ozempic. They've already gone under the knife for so many other reasons. So again, like Trisha's always been chasing a version of happiness that came through status, aesthetics. She used to get a makeup artist coming to her house to do her makeup for like thousands of dollars, right? So it just feels a little bit like funny for us to be all big on like Ozempic. I mean, what is the difference from, you know, again, for me, it's always about why. And it doesn't help that every time people do their hair, do their makeup, the audience goes crazy. It doesn't help that we are more likely to click on thumbnails of people looking pretty or aspirational, because then it sets into motion this loop of like, I have to look pretty, because my audience needs to aspire to be me. So I have to show them a life that's greater, right? We built this cycle together. And so it's very difficult. Okay, here's another one. Trisha talked about this podcast. She never mentioned Ethan's names. Allegedly, this is about Ethan. I don't care about that. It's just the Ozempic conversation I care about.
Speaking of skinny girl era, why don't you do Ozempic? Just in general, this is a question. Because, okay, first of all, everyone's on Ozempic. I just saw one of our friends the other day who lost 100 pounds on Ozempic. I saw him for the first time in like a couple years, and he looked so good. And he's like, I'm on Ozempic, or he's like an Ozempic Jason, it's something with an M. And he's like, it's so great. I don't even work out. I lost 100 pounds. And I was like, oh, I don't want to be on Ozempic. So I would love to know.
I would do it in like 2 seconds. Oh, it's just expensive.
Why did you talk me out of it? Because I was like, we need to put the anti-Ozempic out there, the people that don't want to do it, because everyone's on it.
I'm bad for that, yeah.
Wait, so why aren't you?
It's just expensive. But I'm gonna
you know what's crazy is I don't know I forget this person's name because I don't watch Trisha like that. How much thinner do you need to be? Like, I'm no judgment, but like, I couldn't even imagine. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, how thin are we trying to get to? That's what's interesting. Again, I'm not here to judge people's bodies and choices. I generally not. But if my friend came to me and they were at this weight, I'd be like, why do you need Ozempic? You could go on a calorie deficit for literally like 3 months and be where you need to be probably. But why do you need to be even thinner than this? Because at that point, like, what are we aiming for? That's why people think Ozempic bodies look kind of creepy, because you're too skinny. Like, it's not to say that you're bad if you're too skinny. You know, I want to make sure that we're like very compassionate with the way that we have this conversation. But there's like a look that just like, it's too much. And so then I'm confused about sort of like the goals here. You know, what's the goal? I don't even know how to find a picture of Ozempic body, but like, it tends to just look like, you know what I mean? Like, look, I have a picture of me that I always like see, and I'm like, because I'm too skinny. There is a too skinny in the same, you know what I'm saying? What? Who? You know what I mean? She says she's still friends with Ethan. Definitely don't trust her. Bro, she's, first of all, brother and sister-in-law with Ethan. They're not friends. They're family. And second of all, they're not friends. They don't talk. I'm saying this clip claims she was talking about Ethan. That's not the point. The point is that I'm trying to say, what is going to make a person really accept that, like, there is a too skinny? You know what I mean? It's just kind of crazy.
asked my doctor on when I go. What's my physician? No, on Friday.
I also think it's kind of crazy to be sitting across your boss who you know is like filthy rich and be like, oh, I can't afford Ozempic. And then Trisha's like, why aren't you on Ozempic? And he's like, I can't afford it. Always awkward when you're, you know what I mean?
I think my insurance covers like weight loss stuff though, so it'd be like uncovered. And I feel like that's like, I think it's like $1,200 if you're not like for a
$1,200
month for if you're not covered by insurance.
Wow, so that's the only reason you're not doing it.
Yeah, but if it was like over the counter, I'd be like, I'd
You
be
would
over there
take
for 2
it?
seconds.
Oh no!
Yeah.
I'm just like I want to take it, but I'm just like I don't know. Speaking of skinny girl,
Okay. Next, here, this allegedly was deleted because TikTok didn't want it on the internet, but I found it. February 3rd, 2026.
Weird. I was debating on if I was going to even talk about this yet. Wait, why am I so scared to talk about this? This is so not like
Because you made a whole platform on being like body positive and embracing your body and like not wanting to be skinny, and you openly shared stuff. And now, you know, your audience is probably going to turn on you a bit. I don't think they should. I think it's Trisha's body. They can do what they want. It's none of my business. I do not care. I just hope they're doing it for good reasons. But like, I do not care. Again, it is not my business what you do with your body. I do not care as long as you are joyful and happy. Now, whether or not you're joyful and happy, girl, only you know if you're lying to yourself, right? So I do recommend you deconstruct, go to therapy, talk to a doctor, do your due diligence to make sure this is really what I want. But I don't think it's inherently wrong to do anything you want with your body. I think you have to really ask yourself, is this self-harm or is this really my joy?
okay. Today, I took my first GLP-1 shot. Okay. I've had a lot of struggle with this decision, okay? It's day 1, so I feel nothing. I still feel hungry, okay? Took a tirzepatide, talked to a doctor, all of that, how much weight I wanted to lose, and why. For the first time in my life, I am so happy with my life. I don't think my life could be any better. 2025 was the best year of my life. I gave birth to my 3rd and final child, and I had 3 healthy pregnancies these past 3 years. I've been pregnant since 2022. I had the last baby in 2025, so I've been pregnant for 3 years straight. They were healthy pregnancies, healthy babies. I've been healthy. I've gotten great career opportunities. Everything's been going great. My mental stability is just nice, even keel. My husband's better than ever, cooking delicious foods. Like, everything is wonderful. So I was always like, I don't think I want to take a medication that alters my brain and how I think. And that's what GLP-1s do, right? I was like, oh, it eliminates the food noise and you don't feel hungry. And it's just like, sounds like magic, but also sounds like it alters your brain chemistry. Why did I do that millennial Zoom? That was cringy. I'm sorry. But I really struggled. I had a little cry. I had a little bit of tears in my eyes this morning because I'm like, why? Why, Trisha? Like, you're happy. What if this affects your happiness? Like, you go to bed beaming every night. You wake up excited every morning for life. Like, why are you doing this? I'll tell you why. I am happy with my life. And the way I look is my least interesting thing about myself. Like, I don't think about weight that often. I have gained weight. I have gained weight because I've been pregnant for 3 years straight. Okay. I'm 37. I have never had like a healthy diet, and food noise obviously has always been very loud. I struggle with eating. We talked about all of that. Unfortunately, I have to lose 50 pounds. I am 250 pounds. So I have to lose about 50 pounds in order to get surgery. Yes, I need surgery. My implants are leaking.
Oh.
My implants are leaking, and there's no official diagnosis for breast implant illness, but all signs lead to.
Yeah, implant leaking was one of the many reasons I never got a boob job. Also, my boobs are basically perfect, but you know.
Yes. And this has been going on since before I got pregnant with Malibu. But again, I've been pregnant for 3 years. I just was never able to take out my implants. And in order to get my implants removed safely.
That's interesting that she didn't take them out before getting pregnant.
And without risk that anesthesia could have on someone who is considered obese, which is crazy. I think.
Do you think this is cope? Do you think this is what Trisha is telling themselves in order to justify going on this drug? Or do you think their doctor literally said, like, you're too fat, you're in an unhealthy weight? Like, did they 250? I don't know. I don't know anything about this. It feels a little bit like a coat, but I don't know anything about the science. So then I'm like, well, maybe that's true, but that doesn't feel that big to me. 250 doesn't sound that big to me, but maybe it is. I don't know. But either way, okay, but why do we need to know this? That's another part of this. Why do we need to know this? Honestly, could have kept it to yourself. It is a medical procedure. It's private information. It's none of our business. She could have waited 6 months to share her journey. See how she's sharing in real time though? And that's the problem. Is like, why do we, the internet, need to know this?
I look so good. Like, again, this is not about how I feel like I look so good. So I am like, but I need to do it to get the surgery. You may be asking, well, just lose weight. Well, after that, I say, oh, if I could, I would have, right? Like everyone could have. Everyone is losing weight now because of these tirzepatides and GLP-1s and semaglutides. We'll see how mine goes. This is day one. I have no idea. But I do Pilates 3 times a week. I walk about 1.5 miles 3 times a week. I really try my best to get protein in with hard-boiled eggs and do some grapefruit as a meal replacement. Like
Okay, but we know Trisha mukbangs. Like, why is Trisha acting like we don't see them eat on the internet? That's what I'm saying. Listen, everyone is unique. Everyone has their problems. It took me 2 months to see any difference in my body on a calorie deficit and eating like a more healthy meal. 2 months. And by the way, the numbers on the scale did not go down because I'm also lifting weights. Right? I'm lifting weights and I'm on a new diet. Like I eat different right now. I don't like to call it a diet. That feels like a pressure, but it's just like, it's a vibe. Okay. I'm eating good. I'm plant-based. I went plant-based. I took out all the inflammation stuff for my fibro. Like 2 months to see any difference. And it wasn't numbers on a scale. Okay. It was body comp. So like, Trisha, we watch you eat on the internet. We know you don't eat good. So like that's judgy. We know you don't eat if your goal is to lose weight. No judgment. So if you're going to do that, which love, okay, then Ozempic, do you know what I'm saying? It feels a little bit like a lie. So all of these things need to be deconstructed depending on your bubble. Again, I don't care what Trisha looks like. If Trisha wants to, whatever, none of my business. And if Trisha came to me as a friend and said, hey, I want to lose some weight, but I don't want to be in a calorie deficit and I don't want to have to eat different and I want to do all these things, I'd be like, why? I wouldn't automatically say, okay, well then I would say, why? Let's talk about it. Why do you even want to lose weight? Let's talk about that first. Why lose weight? You know? And so like all of this conversation is too tangled up in our language that I even all see myself getting stuck in like the language they're using instead of like, no, wait, Brittany, I don't care what you look like. What I care about is that you're saying things that don't quite work the way you think because we see you literally eat on stream or on TikTok. So we know that you can say you do Pilates 3 days a week, but if you do Pilates 3 days a week, that's not going to counteract the 4,000 calories a day unless you're doing such a hard workout. Do you know what I mean? Like there's just like the body only works a particular way unless you have a unique circumstance, which is valid, right?
Really try hard, but sometimes your heart is just isn't enough. So I am with everybody else where there is an epidemic happening where everyone is getting too skinny. And I think we can just say that. I think some people are getting scary thin. The obsession with being scary thin is sad. It's sad. It's disheartening. I never want to be a part of that movement. And I don't plan on being a part of that movement. Like losing 50 pounds will change my appearance slightly. But if you follow me.
Okay. According to the internet, Trisha is 5'3" and 250. I will say 250 on 5'3". I mean, just for context, I'm 5'1" and a half and I'm 143 right now. That's pretty significant. Trisha looks really good at 250. I'm just going to say like some people hold weight really well. Like 250 sounds like a big number, but it isn't, you know what I'm saying? I feel Vanilla also showed that she's 200 pounds, but like she doesn't look like the version of 200 pounds we were fed as a kid, but also like no judgment on what your body looks like. This conversation is very triggering. So just everybody hold on. Okay. But it is interesting, like the way you think you're going to look. So it's kind of weird. Like, what does she think she looks like? But also it's none of our business. Like, again, this is hard. It's difficult to have this conversation without it sounding like we're insinuating being fat isn't pretty or something, because that's just not true. Everyone holds weight different. And so the body comp is what you're looking at. Like some people look better. Personally, I covered this the other day in stream. Some people look better. Like I always tell people, like, they're like, oh, I don't look good. I'm like, put on 30 pounds, put on 40 pounds. It's either put on 40 pounds or lose 40 pounds. It depends on what you're looking like. If I have like a skinny, Scooby-Doo looking brother, what's his name, right? And they come to me and they're like, I'm too skinny, I'm a toothpick. Okay, gain 50 pounds. If somebody comes to me and just says like, I want different body comp, I want my thighs bigger, okay, squats. Shaggy, thank you, chat, Shaggy. It just depends on what your goal is. So for Trisha to come on stream and say, my goal is to get surgery, then we shouldn't know about this, and we shouldn't know about it anyways. That's the problem with all of these conversations. When we get into Chelsea, one of the dilemmas with Chelsea is like she feels personally attacked by her audience because she feels like her audience is judging her for going on this drug. But what her audience is trying to say is, if you're this feminist icon who's deconstructed the patriarchy, why do you still feel pressured to appeal to the patriarchy? With Trisha is supposed to be this like embrace your body person, but maybe that's why they're also embarrassed about telling us, but also maybe why they shouldn't. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying we don't have the right to judge your body. We don't. We have the right to personally decide if we think your actions aren't good for ourselves, but not you. Like, we don't get to decide. You know what I mean? We don't get to decide if Trisha, what their body's going to look like. That's not our business. Okay?
Anytime on the internet. My skinniest was in 2019 after a lot of mental breakdowns, ending up in mental hospitals and stuff on substances. If you know, you know. And even then, I think I was like 180 pounds. I'm 5'3" for reference. So 180 is like a lot of people starting weights. You know what I mean? So even if I could get to what my thinnest was, which by the way, I was miserable at 180. Like, I was like, I see the.
It would take a long time. Like, I think Trisha probably needs the surgery faster than they can lose the weight, which is true. It takes a long time to lose weight, to lose fat specifically. It takes a long time. It's very hard and difficult, which is why they say you're kind of exceptional if you can get back into shape, because getting back into shape it's a long time. Okay. So again, the reason people get such a reward for it is because they know the work that went into it. The reason Ozempic is so triggering for people is because they feel like you didn't put the work into it. But the reason people think there's work associated with it is because it is. There is work associated with it. It's a lot of work to stay in shape and get into shape, especially if you're fighting medical problems. So okay, this is why I say don't listen to people. When it comes to your medical health, do not listen to people. Don't listen to strangers. Listen to your doctors. Listen to yourself. Talk to your partners. Talk to your family. Don't listen to strangers on the internet. It's none of our business what you do with your body. You shouldn't even tell us. That's why Chelsea sharing, Trisha sharing, like, girls, stop telling us what you're doing with your bodies. It should not be our business. If you want to share, fine, but it's the way they react to the criticism that tells me you shouldn't have shared this. Okay, I'll go over it in this video here. But Chelsea had to put out this whole comment because she felt like she was being pretty bullied by her audience. And I'm saying, stop sharing with us, please, for your own mental health, right? Because you still have to work out on Ozempic too. Do you? Because everyone is saying you don't have to work out, which is the same with steroids. Everyone thinks, oh, you take steroids for the gym, you don't have to work out. You still have to work out on steroids. So is Ozempic in a similar category? Okay, let's go back to Trisha.
No life behind my eyes. That's still not skinny, but that's not even my goal weight. My goal is like 190. You know what I mean? Because I think I look good. I think I thrive. The internet has always known me at like 190 to 200. Like I said, I don't have fat blindness. I've been pregnant. I've been enjoying pregnancy. I've been enjoying life. I've been enjoying being in love. So my weight gain reflection, it doesn't bother me as much as it may bother some other people. And I will say, for the record, the internet is a lot nicer to me about my weight. I remember like starting off, like, 2010s and stuff like that. I was like maybe like 170 or something, like, early 20s, right? And I remember the internet like calling me fat. I played an obese Jessica Simpson in Eminem We Made You video when I was 20 years old at 175 pounds.
True.
You know what I mean? Like,
classic video.
The internet was warped. And I feel like now, maybe it's because I'm a mom, maybe because I'm older, like, or like people just know me as being like.
Oh, Chess said Ozempic makes you lose scary amounts of muscle mass, so you have to work out to maintain it. See, yeah, I could see that. I could see it being really helpful in a pinch, like in an emergency. I can also see why people are really scared about people using it casually, like anything else, but I don't want to moralize it. I think it's very dangerous for us as a culture to moralize, to decide people are evil for using Ozempic. You're not evil for using Ozempic. You're making it because it's the choice you've decided, whether it's a good choice or a bad choice. That's your own personal, you're not an evil person. Like, there's literally a rapist in the White House. Everybody calm down. You're going after Ozempic people like they fucking raped somebody. Like, that's my problem. It is, you can be sad about it. You can be disappointed about it. It is their journey. And yes, it's maybe not the healthiest thing all the time, but like, okay, relax.
Curvy, thick, fat, whatever you want to call me. I literally have a song called Fat Chicks. Like, I think it's just like it's less harsh these days on bigger people. Like, there's oh, she really gained weight, she looks huge, whatever. You know, there's a couple of those, but it like doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother my like followers that like watch me. I was just like debating on talking about this. I don't know, because I know for so long I was like, well, I'm so happy I don't need a GLP-1, and that is so true. In fact, the thing that kind of stopped me from even trying it is the fact that it could alter my brain, because again, my brain is like saying, Trish, you're happy, you got it, you're content in life, you go to sleep every night and you sleep through the night, and like, so I'm hoping it doesn't like mess with that part of my
Does it?
psyche. Okay.
Does Ozempic do something, or is Trisha just concerned because they've had a struggle?
I don't know. I guess I'm telling all this because I feel like I just need to tell everybody. I feel like it's a very big thing that happened in my life today. And it was my husband's like, you know, he was always not like against it, but he's very much like, you don't need it. And like, you know, he's just being supportive. He loves me as I am. He knows I'm happy. He knows that we have like a good life together and stuff. So I think he's like, you don't need it. And, you know, no side effect and all that. Right. But at the end of the day, I do need it to lose the weight, to get this surgery. And, you know, I think ultimately, yes, I'll have more energy and I'll be able to dance more on stage when I do performances. All that to say, I'm just sharing this because I feel like I need to. I feel like I need to share everything with you guys. So,
Well, that's a part of the problem, though. One of my biggest problems is that I feel like I need to share everything with you guys. That's the biggest red flag. The biggest red flag of this video is now that Trisha wants to use Ozempic is that they feel a need to tell us. I don't need to know this.
I don't know, give me some words of encouragement. It works so differently for everyone. Trust me, I've watched so many videos on this, and I know everyone's body reacts. So I know people in real life that it's like, I love it, best thing I've ever been on.
Oh yeah, Chad says people ask that question all the time. I was pre-diabetic. At the same time, my friend was obese. She went on a GLP-1 and no exercise. In the same amount of time, she dropped 100 pounds and I lost 12 to 15. So you're okay. So everyone does have a different experience with it. Thank you for sharing that. That's really helpful. So people really do have varied experiences with it.
2 years, wouldn't change it for anything, like need it. Oprah's like, I need this forever, I love this so much. And there's people like, I got nauseous. There's people who said it didn't work for them, that they ate through it. Like, there's just so, I have no idea what to expect. But I really am just like sitting here like 12 hours after the injection, just like, do you feel hungry? Do you feel hungry? What are you feeling? Like, just, it's supposed to like stop you from thinking, and yet I'm overthinking. I'm trying to figure out, okay, what can I do besides just thinking about this? Okay, so that's what I did today. I took a GLP-1 shot.
Okay, now let's go back to Trisha from 10 years ago. This is 10 years ago, Trisha. Okay, and they're doing a Q&A way back in the day. That's what YouTubers did, guys. We did Q&As. I don't know if anyone does them anymore. Probably not. They're so old school. Okay.
Those. Do you like black guys? I mean,
Oh, sorry. Hold on. Oh, before she answers the question about being skinny, I just thought this was interesting.
people, yes. I'm assuming you probably mean as like dating. I used to really be into black guys, and I'm not to say I'm not into it. I just feel like they're not into me as much anymore. So I don't know. I'm into whoever's into me. Let's just put it that way. But I do like me some brothers, especially dark chocolate. You know what I'm saying? Do you hear?
So, yeah, okay.
I wish you were skinny. Oh, it's okay. My friend here weighs 2 tons, and I'm okay with weighing 2 tons too. No. You know, it's kind of a lie to say I guess I never wish I was skinny at some point. I think sometimes, as a bigger girl, I think all bigger girls can relate. I think sometimes you want to be skinny, but then again, I feel like
I think this is the thin Trisha, right? This is like 180 Trisha, I think.
skinny girls sometimes wish they were bigger, right? Maybe not. I don't know. Yeah, so I think that would be a lie, but I'm very comfortable in my body, meaning like I'm not looking to like starve myself. Like let's face it, if I wanted to be 100 pounds, I probably could. I probably could starve myself to be that. And I look at gorgeous girls who are stroking his fin over here. I'm looking at gorgeous girls who are very skinny, and a lot of my idols are very thin girls. And yeah, I'm like, God, it'd be nice. Or it'd be nice to have to just like throw on jeans and know they're gonna fit baggy on you. Like in that sense, yes. But I don't really desire to be anything other than what I am. And 100%, I would like my clothes to fit a little better at the moment. I mean, I'm a little bigger than I would like to be. But, you know, I think originally when I saw that question, I was just like, no, I would never want to be skinny. But yeah, I mean, sometimes you wish you were skinny, but I feel like sometimes people wish they were prettier. You know, I don't know. Like, there's just different things. And, but I'm not. And it's a struggle for me, and I'm dealing with disorders and all this stuff. You know, I have binge eating disorder, which is very hard for me to control. It's a mental thing. It's all mental. So I know that, and it's a lot to do with willpower and strength. And those are things I lack, and not just in eating, but in other things in my life. I'm a very addictive personality. Oh, I just totally lost my spot. Okay, let's like randomly scroll.
Anyways, old Trisha, you know, what a blast from the past. So, okay. Chad says I lost 90 pounds on Bound. Was a low dose, so still felt hungry, but I had the time and space to eat healthy meals before the cravings hit. I'm feeling satisfied after a regular meal for the first time. Oh, that's nice. Was life changing? Have come off now, and the struggle with binging is still there, but in therapy and working on it. Hey, thank you for the sharing, and honestly, we wish you luck. And I think it is, you know, everyone's on this journey for different reasons, and that's why I'm really not trying to judge why people do what they're gonna do. Like, at the end of the day, we just don't know people's stories. And I do kind of hope, and my only suggestion to people on social media is if you're going to share the story, make it clear what perspective you're coming from, because it gives, you know, the audience just runs with it anyways, but it might help you feel seen and heard. So Chelsea Fagan from The Financial Diet, you guys asked me to review this. This is, you know, again, Chelsea's a finance channel, but for some reason she felt a need to post this video here, which is a little, you know, it's a thing. So I have taken the GLP-1. I want to talk about skinny celebrities, which I assume is kind of similar to what we talked about a week ago about thinness in Hollywood right now. But Chelsea put a pinned comment that I thought we should read before we watch. It says, "Howdy squad. As expected, cruel comments already rolling in about my choice to take these drugs, including accusing me of lying, which is sort of crazy, when I could have just said nothing at all. I don't regret taking them, nor do I regret disclosing it. Because I believe we live in a social media-driven epidemic of dishonesty and lies by omission, and weight loss is a huge part of the problem. I always err on the side of transparency, even about really sensitive things that open me up to mockery," which I think Chat brought that up earlier. The problem with people taking Ozempic is maybe that they lie. And so it sends a message that it's easy to lose weight or that it's easy to get into shape. And so the deception is really difficult, right? Okay. Chelsea goes on to say, "I do, however, want to make one observation. I have said in the past and repeated in this video that I have tried on many, many drugs for anxiety over the years. That I have tried on many? Okay. These drugs often run high risk for dependency and abuse and are often misused recreationally. Some of them even result in weight loss and are abused for those reasons. But no pharmaceutical I've ever taken has ever been met with judgment and cruelty like GLP-1, even though that one worked by far most effectively for some of my worst anxiety-induced habits. Our overwhelming problem in terms of implicit bias in the U.S. is against fat people. I will never deny that. But I also think we need to examine how harshly some of us judge anyone who expresses a desire to lose weight and how much vanity and duplicity we just ascribe to that choice, especially for women. We can reject the glorification of ultra thinness while still accepting that weight loss is healthy for some people and that weight gain may be downstream of other problems. And medicine can be a part of that process just like it is for countless of other ailments. TLDR, please fucking chill out. Love most of you guys." It's just a little most of in parentheses, you guys. Okay. So let's watch this. Let's see how we feel about it. And let's just like be kind and compassionate and understand that Chelsea's a person and they're going through it. But even more than that, we are not in charge of Chelsea's body. Chelsea's in charge of Chelsea's body. I do think Chelsea's a public figure and didn't need to share, but has. And so we can have conversations about it. I also think Chelsea is suffering from feeling maybe that she's aging or something because she's made a lot of videos about, you know, plastic surgery and living under patriarchy and looking young. And again, this is her struggle, so that's valid. I do agree that it shouldn't be our struggle, but I also agree that you cannot be struggling with these things and still get plastic surgery. I would love everyone to get plastic surgery because they really want it, not because they think they should do it, right? Because again, okay, I think you should do your best to make the inside match the outside and the outside match the inside. But, you know, not everybody has the money or resources to do that. So we do our best with what we have, right? I bring this to, like, for me personally, I don't want any plastic surgery right now, but I would love, like, maybe to update my wardrobe, maybe to move into a space that I feel like I could really move into and decorate. And maybe if I could afford, like, I make a full-time living doing this, but like most people, I will have to save for many, many years to really afford a place and then afford a wardrobe update and then afford all these things because we're living within our budget. We're not putting any money on our credit card, which means like we're doing our best to live within our income. And we have a very, very comfortable life. With a little bit more money, would I look a little different? Sure, but not that much different. And I do think the way that I show up still allows me to be a person, you know, who makes a living and everything. So, and I'm 36, so I think it's a struggle for me to hear Chelsea talk about the pressures of looking pretty and young when I'm sitting here like, are we not in the same field? Do we not do the same thing? Who is the audience that is pressuring you to feel this way? How much more money do you need to make? Like, what is happening in Chelsea's life that she feels pressured to do these things in the name of money? Do you know what I'm confused. Also, she looks beautiful. So like, I don't know. I don't know what's different about our lives except, and this is a philosophy channel, I believe you should liberate your spirit from the constructs of society that is unhealthy. I think you should do philosophy work and therapy work. And I think you should learn to make decisions because you want to do them and know the difference between what you want and need, and know the difference between I want them because of people and I want them because of myself. And I also see the joy in doing things because it benefits both. But ultimately, the only reason you should ever get plastic surgery is because it really, really is about you. And yes, it can benefit you from your job, which I'm on camera, right? Okay, I'm on camera, so I get it. And also, right?
Hey guys, I'm coming at you with this slightly unexpected / unplanned video in our usual schedule. And it's not quite one of my hot take iPhone videos, because although I do love doing those and I have a lot of hot take type feelings on this subject, I also recognize that it's a topic that requires a lot of nuance and accuracy. So I wanted to include a good amount of research and really think about what I was saying, because we are going to talk about weight and bodies and eating disorders. And
also, Chelsea's ADHD. I'm autistic, most likely ADHD myself. So we have a neurodivergent overlap here. And my theory is that because she's neurodivergent and tries really hard to be normal, she hasn't embraced her neurodivergent weirdness, which I have. So I'm less concerned about being normal and I'm more concerned about being happy. So I think that's the difference.
just a lot of other things that can be pretty difficult to talk about. So I want to start this video by giving a quick trigger warning that if anything related to bodies, weight, food, etc. is a sensitive topic for you, as well as looking at some images of some, quite frankly, extremely thin celebrities, this is not the video for you. I will not be offended whatsoever if you pack your suitcase and get out of here right now. This is your stop. But for the rest of us who feel at least reasonably comfortable with having this conversation, I do think it is a conversation that is extremely important to have, and one that I think, like many online conversations, is just in a dire lack of nuance. And I say that particularly as someone who has in the past taken a GLP-1. I am not currently taking one. I haven't taken any GLP-1 drugs for essentially the entirety of 2026 at this point. I'm not saying I would never take them again, but it's just not something I'm currently doing, but it is something I have done. So I do think that I come at this subject both as someone who has taken these drugs before and also as someone who is on camera damn near every day for her actual job. And I've talked about in a recent video here.
This one, this video she did, she was talking about how she did an interview with somebody and then she refused to like either post the video or consent to being posted in the video because she said she didn't look good in it. And I'm saying, hey, if you as a woman allow the way you look to override your intellectual opinions and a presence in a space because of how you look, you need to deconstruct patriarchy. You need to keep deconstructing what you look like. I don't care if I roll out of bed and come to an interview. At the end of the day, I'm smart enough to be here, listen to me talk. And yes, I've absolutely shown up on camera and now felt good about the way I looked. But, the only reason I've ever not posted a video is because I didn't like what I said. If I did an interview with somebody or I posted it or I made a video and I feel like I didn't articulate myself, I won't post it. But it's never because of what I look like. It's okay that Chelsea's suffering in this way, but I think the sign, I feel like the sign that she needs to deconstruct more is the fact that she allowed her looks to be the reason she didn't post the video. That tells me like we need to deconstruct and liberate ourselves from this idea that we should be judged by what we look like, and understand that, what you look like matters, but only depending on the context.
The impact that can sometimes have on mental health as far as it pertains to appearance and the image that we're selling, because unfortunately, anytime part of your brand proposition is being physically visible to people, unfortunately, your looks are kind of part of that brand proposition. I think with all of that in mind, I think
Chelsea's biggest crime, as my chat has pointed out, is that she looks like a Republican. That's it. Chelsea's so cute, but the only crime she's ever committed is looking like a Republican. She does. She looks like a middle-aged, we are middle-aged. She looks like a middle America, mostly is what I meant, mom who has 4 kids, and offers people a casserole. She looks like she makes casseroles.
You have I think, somewhat of a nuanced take on this issue that I would like to share. And just generally, I think it's a conversation that is worth having from a place of good faith and not sensationalism. Before I get to this video, which again, I hope you will bear with me because I know
Which I think I have a theory that's her struggle. I have a theory, and this is so inappropriate. So like, this isn't for Chelsea. This is for you guys, because we use real people's lives to learn about our own. If I was Chelsea's friend, I'd say, do you think you have a struggle with how you look because you actually haven't found your style yet? I watch your videos. You say you put a lot of effort into what you look like, but like, is this what you want to look like? Because you dress like a mom who makes casseroles. So it's up to you, but maybe the reason you think you look old is because you dress like you're a mom who makes casseroles. You don't look old. Change your hair, change your clothes, and you will look 10 years younger. People come on my stream and literally think I'm in my 20s all of the time. It's because of the way I dress. It's literally the way I do my hair. It's not the way I look. If I dress like Chelsea, I would look so much older. That's what I'm saying. Before you guys get plastic surgery, change the way you look. That's what I told my friend who was like concerned with their like face and stuff. I was like, first, before you do surgery, go to a dermatologist. Before you go to surgery, change the way you look. Okay? That's it. Chet says, my sisters are literally middle-aged Midwestern moms and they look less Republican than Chelsea. Uh-oh. Yeah, maybe a stylist would be worth trying. I agree, chat. Get a stylist, dress a little younger, not a lot younger, not 22, but like, you know, I get told all the time, oh my God, Brittany, I can't believe you're in your 30s. But like Chelsea's giving middle-aged mom, which is cute. She's so cute. She's so cute. But you know what I mean?
It's a very sensitive topic, but I tried to approach it with as much nuance as I could. Before we get to it, I just want to reiterate, we do not work with many brands here. We try to be very, very careful about what we promote and make sure that it is by and large financial products that we use and trust and swear by. If you have been wanting to get better with your money and you want to support us, we try to run a very ethical business. We are women owned and operated. We are very transparent in how we operate. We're very fair in our pay structures, profit sharing, 6 weeks PTO, 40 work week, all of that. If you want to help support us and you want to better your own finances, we recommend Monarch. It is my budgeting app. It is the one I started using even before we were working with them when I was looking for a Mint replacement. You can, using our link, get a free trial and half off of your first year. Cannot recommend it more. It is a genuinely wonderful budgeting app for essentially all of your day-to-day financial needs. Betterment, if you are looking to start investing but don't really know how to do it, it is an extremely easy to use robo-advisory that just basically you set it and forget it, and you can benefit from all of the long-term wealth building of investing in the stock market without really having to do anything or know anything about the stock market, because let's be very clear, you should not be out here individual stock picking. You should just be broadly diversified in low-fee index funds and let it ride. Use our link below. And lastly, if you are looking to level up your finances and use a financial advisor, which I've been doing for several years now, we highly recommend advisor.com. They are a wonderful team. We do tons of ongoing education with them every quarter, free financial education for our audience. They are also a flat fee advisory service, which means that they work for you.
We do let the ads play because I am watching her video. You know, it's a nice way for commentary channels to give back. Now you're watching my audience is also watching the ad that could help Chelsea. But more than that, like, I do think people should get paid for their labor.
Not for commissions, and everyone pays the same regardless of their net worth. And they're just, a really good company, and we wholeheartedly endorse them. All three are linked below. Let's get to the video. But to give you a little bit of context, if you are out of the loop, and if you are, God bless you, stay that way forever, never Google anything. But basically there has been, I would say, nothing short of an epidemic of celebrities looking really weird.
Okay, so here's an example again. This is none of my business. I know people are suffering. They're in a really difficult industry. It is none of my business how these women got to this way. Notice that they're all women. Okay, this is not my business. Okay, again, you can have your thoughts inside your head. You can talk to your girlfriends. We can talk about it here. I don't know what's going on with any of these people. They're in a really difficult industry, like I said. I'm glad I'm not in that fucking industry. Let's be so fucking for real, because like no one is immune to the pressures of this industry. You know what I mean? Like, I understand, but the goal should not be to bully these women. The problem is people suck. So the audiences bully these women. They literally are in their comment sections bullying them. And I think you're all fucking disgusting. But I also think humans are going to human, and that's what they're going to do. And I'm saying, don't bully Chelsea. Don't bully any of these people. It's not our business. And generally, I would always encourage you to have a good relationship with self, everything outside of yourself, right? To in many ways guarantee that when you do make a choice, even if it's this choice, it's a good choice, and it's not choice feminism. We're not trying to choice feminism this conversation. We're trying to say, to avoid choice feminism, to avoid just doing it because everyone else is doing it, you have to first ask yourself very difficult and deep philosophical questions that honestly are really, really hard for people. They're really hard for people to even start doing. So don't blame them. Okay, just understand that they're going through it. If you see this and think this is so sad, then how much worse is it to bully the people that you quote feel bad for?
There's been a little bit of everything in terms of celebrities no longer looking very recognizable. And I should also say that this is increasingly kind of a gender neutral phenomenon. Some of you guys may have seen the recent kerfuffle around Jim Carrey appearing on a red carpet, not looking like himself. I will actually reference co-host of Good Noticings and former guest on TFD, Ashley Hamilton, who had a great TikTok about this the other day that I'll put here, basically just saying it's really noteworthy that when a woman shows up on a red carpet looking very unlike herself, we just exoriate her for being a victim of vanity and beauty culture. And when a man does, you get headlines like this, people speculating on whether or not this man is a clone or is using a body double or things like that. I think the answer is almost certainly no. Jim Carrey has not been cloned. Jim Carrey is not an alien. He probably just got some work done like many people in Hollywood around his age, and it doesn't look all that great. Not dissimilar to someone like a Bradley Cooper, for example. But while this is definitely an increasingly gender neutral phenomenon, and a lot of the celebrity appearance discourse is centered around their face and often attempts to look younger than their actual age, a huge part of this conversation is around celebrities, for lack of a better word, looking skinny as hell. As we can see in some of these photos, some of the celebrities that we are seeing look just frankly quite frightening, quite visibly ill, are people who used to be heavier. And in many cases,
That language is a little much. Like, they look frightening. You know, it's like, all right. Like, I am concerned, and I hope you're okay. You do not look frightening. I hope you're okay. Right? I get it. Okay, but like, I'm at, you know, okay.
were just brutally mocked by the press and by the public for daring to be a visible person while overweight. You also have the other side, which are famous people who have sort of always been thin while they've been in the public eye, but are now at a level of thinness that seems like we are, if anything, days away from hospitalization. You, in that category, have cases like Bella Hadid, who is very frequently posting photos from the hospital, ostensibly for chronic Lyme disease, which is a digression I will not go on this video because I'm not trying to fight with the quote unquote chronic Lyme warriors on here. But let's just say that is a very dubious diagnosis at best. And those of us who watched The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills from its inception when her mother was a cast member for several seasons, we know how far the Hadid mother, Yolanda Foster, went to ingrain disordered behavior in her daughters and basically admonish them for eating anything over than a handful of almonds on a daily basis. So suffice to say, Bella Hadid's very frightening recent appearance and the fact that she is frequently
Yeah, she. To be fair, Chelsea does get corrected on her language in the chat, and I needed to. My audience corrects my language. Like, we are products of our environment. We're in our 30s. Like, we have to deconstruct our language, and Chelsea does buy into a lot of millennial. Chelsea has a lot of millennial trauma. I'll just call it that. I'm a new diagnosis: millennial trauma. Millennials have a lot of trauma, guys, and it's because we're the products of a what we are into what we It's a lot.
In the hospital, I am not personally, from a common sense POV, comfortable entirely chalking up to quote unquote chronic Lyme disease. But that's its own story. Point being, celebrities are getting extremely thin before our very eyes, sometimes starting from a place of thinness, sometimes not. And to be clear, being skinny as kind of an aspirational or attractive state has gone in and out of fashion over the years and over the centuries. It isn't new necessarily for the rich and famous to want to look very thin. But what has been consistent, whether or not skinny happened to be in vogue, is that what is generally considered to be very aspirational for the elite is what is less achievable for the general population. Quote, throughout history, the beauty standard of any given period has served the ideological interests of the ruling class. During the Renaissance.
Wait, pause. I'm going to rewind that. Chat said France might be fucking up her perspective, and then Chat said she lives in New York and France. Yeah. So Chelsea lives in New York and France. Her husband's French. And I do think Chelsea also tries to hang out with more like affluent people in a sense. And Chelsea also like has New York dinner parties. Remember, I was very critical of her dinner party series, which she happened to host during the worst economic moment for a lot of Americans. So it felt very obnoxious. She's like, you can do this for cheap. Girl, is it $20? Because if it's more than $20, and even $20, I make a pretty decent fucking income, like a pretty decent income. And we can't afford to go out to eat more than like once every 2 months and spend 30 euro. Like, and I make pretty good money. So like, you know what I mean? I don't make six figures, but like I make okay money. So the idea that like people are going to be hosting dinners for 6 of their friends, like, girl, nobody has money for that. It's just like, it's a crazy idea. Anyways, so Chelsea, I think, is struggling within those bubbles. I really think she is a left-leaning, progressive, aspiring woman who's still liberal, who hasn't deconstructed capitalism far enough, nor how she looks. And I think this is the product of it. The reason I liked watching Chelsea's finance shows, because she was the progressive talking about finance, but it's like pretty clear she's still not deconstructed enough. So it's a struggle. And so I do find it a little frustrating. Like, this is a finance channel. Why are we talking about this? Where's the money aspect of this coming in yet? Because we're 7, almost 8 minutes in, and not one topic has been about money yet.
Plump, pale skin was a prize signifier of high social status, while sun-darkened skin became synonymous with lower classes laboring outside. Today, however, the same...
Okay, this sounds like it's about money, but it still isn't yet. Not just ugly, just poor, or not ugly, just poor. That is about money, and I think that comment is like really funny, actually, because it's kind of true. Same thing with your house. Like, you don't know how good of a decorator I am. I just don't have money to show you. Like, you don't even know how good I am. That's a joke. I can't decorate to save my life. So I think this is the money part of it, but it's not even the money part of it yet. Like, it's still not even the money part of it yet.
And complexion is desirable, coming as it has in the West to indicate leisure time, holidaying abroad, and the luxury of disposable income.
Because adulthood is high school with money. We're always trying to signal to people where we are. We're always trying to signal, like, where are you going on vacation this summer? I mean, Chelsea kind of plays into this again. We do not need to know Chelsea's life. Chelsea's an ADHDer who overshares. Okay? We know way too much about Chelsea's life. We probably should know most of what Chelsea shares, but she keeps doing it because she keeps, like, one, she's trying to run a business, and like a real business. She has like employees. You know, she runs a real business, a business that was doing so bad at one point, she had to give a personal loan from her personal savings, her and her partners, to the business to stay afloat. She's trying to run a real business here. And she's trying to overshare her personal problems on her channel. So sometimes I do think the posts I see on the financial diet as of late have been inappropriate. Like, sometimes it'll be a 20-minute video that looks like it was filmed with a cell phone, not Chelsea's cell phone videos, which I actually do tend to like, but somebody who isn't Chelsea making a video that felt very rushed. And I'm sitting here like, hey, are you a YouTuber who's just hanging out with their audience, or are you running a fucking business? Or, and this is what's really true, are you done with this business? Sometimes I think Chelsea's just done, and she doesn't know how to admit to herself that she's not happy anymore. And that's okay. But I think sometimes that's really what this conversation is about. I'm not happy anymore. I'm not happy with my job. I'm not happy with where I live. I'm not happy with what I look like. And I don't know what to do about it. Introspect, meditate, therapy, deconstruction, philosophical deconstruction. Why am I unhappy? What do I think I need? Do I need a break? Do I need to rework my whole life? What do I really want if I had nobody who depended on me, no one's salaries to pay? You know, the reason I run my business solo is because I don't want the burden or responsibility of being responsible for people's income, because I need the freedom to change what I do for a living. If I want to show up tomorrow, guys, I'm quitting YouTube. I'm going to become a teacher. I need to be able to do that. Sometimes I'm worried Chelsea isn't able to do that because she's the reason some people are getting paid. What if Chelsea wants to make a decision to leave the company? Can she? You know? So who knows what's really happening behind closed doors? But I think that's hugely playing a role on everything else that's happening on this video and on this channel.
But what's interesting in the very recent years is that with being thin becoming slightly more accessible than it has in the past with the rise of GLP-1 drugs.
Sorry, just a pause. If you guys, can I take you back to Trisha Paytas for a second? One of the reasons Trisha Paytas did so well on OnlyFans is because people wanted to see, forgive me for my French, the circus freak make porn. They wanted to watch Trisha, who had been infamously problematic, racist, and all these other things, and fat, and all these things that were considered ill by society. And they wanted to watch the ill girl be naked and squirt on camera. They wanted to watch the girl who in public spread her ass cheeks and had tissue paper hanging out, and then the picture went viral. So she was charging like very low numbers, like low cost, to get into her OnlyFans, and became very rich on it, and then stopped it when she got married because she was like ashamed. Trisha has a habit, a pattern of doing actions that make her famous and rich, and then she gets a shame spiral from it, which is, I think, plays probably into the binge eating, not to be a couch therapist or something. But I think this happens with maybe other people too, is like, if you are not careful about how you run your time being viewed, like, look me, I'm a public figure, I get it. If you are not very careful about your mental health, if you get famous very fast or in the wrong way, yeah, like it will be big. So here we are, Chelsea Fagan, who you assume had figured out life. You have everything, money, status, 2 homes, like what the fuck do you want? And then here we are, posting a comment saying her audience is being mean to her, that, you know, she doesn't feel connected to her audience. I think your audience doesn't feel connected to you. I certainly don't as an audience member. And I'm wondering, hey girl, what's going on? Now, I don't want to be cruel to Chelsea. I want to say this should be the red flag that something has to change. Not to double down and fight against your audience, but to say, damn, I must be doing something wrong. I think Chelsea thinks she's right. And because Chelsea thinks she's right, she's not listening to her audience. And that's what's stopping everything from, but how can she listen to her audience when she's busy thinking she looks old? How can Chelsea even hear other people if Chelsea looks in the mirror and literally thinks she's too old? Chelsea, girl, you know what I mean? Like the red flag is that you don't know what you look like. You need to talk to a doctor who can help you see what you look like. You don't look old. You look like a Republican, which is different.
One might argue that what has become aspirational.
And also, sorry, there's nothing wrong with looking old. That's the other part. The second layer, the third, fourth layer of deconstruction. What's wrong with looking old? What's wrong with it? Tell me. You can't give me one reason why it's wrong looking old. And don't say you make less money. That's not a moral decision. That's a strategic problem. If Chelsea needs more money, sure, maybe she has to figure out how to look less old. But there's no moral reason she can't look less old.
Among celebrities is not just being thin, which has kind of been the case ever since we've seen a serious uptick in obesity in not just our country, but the Western world. But
also, she's a double income, no kids. So how much money we really need out here, girl? Double income, no kids, you know?
being obscenely thin, much thinner than even the average person could hope to become. Because as we'll get into a little bit later in this video,
You know, if Chelsea's financially struggling, she should talk to Dave Ramsey. Maybe he can help her out. Fun fact about Dave Ramsey, who I'm not a fan of, but I do watch enough Dave Ramsey to know like what good advice is and what bad advice is. Dave said that because of his Southern drawl back in the 80s, people didn't trust him as an intellect because they associated that accent with stupidity. So he went to a speech coach who helped him have less of a Southern drawl, but just enough to be brandable. And he ended up doing better in business. And that is the equivalent to what Chelsea's suffering with. The question is, do you need to go to a speech coach, or do you just need a fashion designer, girlie? Do you just need a stylist? Do you need a stylist, or do you need Ozempic? You know what I mean? You probably just need a stylist.
it is very, very unlikely that for a lot of these celebrities who are maintaining dangerously low BMIs, that it is simply a question of quote unquote Ozempic. What's also true about our current moment and the beauty standards that come with it is that we are not existing in a vacuum of what happens to be published in magazines or appear in films and television. We are living out celebrities' appearances in real time on a second-to-second basis on these extremely unforgiving and algorithmically driven platforms. Places like TikTok, where constant body checking and weight loss driven quote unquote glow ups are essentially a hallmark of the genre. I won't name any of them because it honestly feels like punching laterally in a video on YouTube like this, but I can think of so many influencers off the top of my head, and I'm sure you can too, whose like first order of business on getting a certain level of fame or income on their platform is just dropping an enormous amount of weight and getting a ton of cosmetic procedures done. And this is not to say that that is wrong inherently. That is very much playing the game, and I understand why they do it. Trust me, I have to see myself on camera all the time. I know the feeling. But it's also just worth noting that like this is the context we are living in, where we are being scrutinized on a second-to-second basis. And often, unfortunately, what is rewarded is just managing to look as thin and as young as is plausibly possible. But again, even that is on a razor's edge, which we'll discuss in a second. We're also in an epidemic of things like what I eat in a day videos, where incredibly thin young college students will post about the things that they get to eat at their campus cafeteria in between incredibly intense cardio workouts. And these are also platforms which are unprecedentedly young. The average TikTok user is literally a teenager, and these are the platforms where a lot of these celebrities are appearing and building.
Yeah, Chad said she's a finance channel. Helping looking older might even be better for marketing. That's what I'm curious about. Why does her channel, that's primarily women watching, I assume, why does she need to look younger? I really, really think it is not about looking age younger. I really think it's her style. I'm telling you, it's not that. Or she's seeing her views and she's not happy with it. I think that's the problem, is like, I think she's chasing views and money, and the only solution patriarchy has taught her is to look younger instead of like trendier. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know what she's, I think this is something. That's what I'm saying. Something is going on. And I don't know if she knows what it is yet.
their brands and interacting with their audiences. They're competing against children in many cases. And they're on that razor's edge that I mentioned, whether it's with the anti-aging stuff or the weight loss stuff, where if it goes well and looks good, like let's say a really good facelift, you are celebrated for it. But anyone who gets work that is slightly off or not as well done or not as successful gets excoriated for it, even though in both cases you're getting work done. The same can be said for weight loss. There is a very, very, very fine line between what we consider to be like body serving tea, the glow up is real, etc., and someone who looks like they need to be in a hospital. And anytime someone, especially a woman, but as we can see this happens with men too, anytime someone steps over that invisible line, they are completely fair game to mock and humiliate. But as it pertains to celebrity weight loss, I want to talk specifically about the GLP-1 of it all. Because basically anytime you will see a video of a celebrity looking scary thin on social media, all of the top comments will be like, Ozempic hit her like a train, or like, the Ozempic is Ozempicing, or whatever the case may be. Basically, people chalking that weight loss up to the use of a GLP-1 drug. The implication, of course, being that people who are already thin are overwhelmingly using these drugs to get down to really unhealthy weights. There's also historically been a kind of socioeconomic or ethical issue with this, in the sense that for a time, GLP-1 drugs were actually in shortage of production. And so there was an argument that the people who could afford to pay really high premiums for them were taking them away from, let's say, diabetic patients who actually needed them. But since the 2nd of October 2024, quote, the US Food and Drug Administration has determined the shortage of tirzepatide injection, a glucagon-like peptide medication, has been resolved. Tirzepatide injection had been in shortage since 2022 due to increased demand. So you could at least say that the rich and famous aren't, quote unquote, taking these drugs away from people who really need them. But now we kind of have the opposite problem, which is like the hyper ubiquity of these drugs. They are incredibly saturated in advertising. Many of you probably saw basically endless advertisements for them during the Summer Olympics, including promotions from athletes who openly admit to not even using them. You have celebrities like Serena Williams doing massive ad campaigns for GLP-1. In her case, her husband is actually an investor in the company she was promoting, so that's also a little bit ethically complicated. There are essentially countless B2B startups and apps that will easily connect whoever wants GLP-1s with the drug. And now that they are increasingly available in pill form, they're becoming even easier and, in many people's view, more socially.
Hello? YouTube having. Hello? Let's see.
Acceptable to take. There was actually a really interesting article in The Cut recently about this, about the impact that GLP-1s being available as a pill rather than a shot will have on people taking them. Quote, over and over, women told me that these pills gave them permission to enter the world of medical weight loss. Tara said that taking them feels like one step beyond going to Duane Reade and buying vitamins. The 42-year-old has PCOS and read that GLP-1s might help with symptoms like infertility, high blood sugar, and inflammation. Another woman, Jill, told me that she likes that the pill is more discreet than the injections that she was taking. She no longer has to hide vials and needles from her house cleaner or someone that she's dating. Quote, I don't want some guy opening my refrigerator and seeing my diet pens, she says. It's embarrassing. Intellectually and practically, I do understand why there is increasingly a backlash against these drugs, right? Because they're being very heavily marketed to Americans, but also to women specifically. I also should say I'm in France currently, and although the marketing for these drugs is not the same, because unlike in the US, which is the wild, wild west in terms of pharmaceutical advertising, there are very, very heavy restrictions around that. GLP-1s are quite prevalent here. I know many people in France who have taken them or are on them. So I just want to clarify, it's not an American exclusive issue, but it definitely is much more prevalent in our culture, both because of our relationship, I think, to things like obesity and type 2 diabetes, but also because we're allowed to advertise the hell out of drugs, which I want to be clear, I think should be illegal for any type of pharmaceutical, but that's a different story. But so you have their ubiquity, and you have this sudden seeming epidemic of insanely, insanely thin celebrities essentially dominating our social media feeds. So I do understand why there is a backlash. This is where I do want to say, as I mentioned, I did last year take a GLP-1 and had an extremely positive experience with it. I did an entire 8-minute video about this on my TikTok last year where I broke down my experience and also just a transparency around it, because I did not.
So she changed her hair. Okay. I wonder if she's been, and there's something. Hold on. Pause is crazy. So she changed her hair. Is she wearing a fucking filter on this video? Grown-ups should not use filters. If that's a filter, listen, grown-ups cannot be using filters. If you as a grown-up have reached the age of 35 and you are a grown-up who's spouting anything with the word F, feminist and or progressive, and you use a filter because you feel ugly that day, don't post that video. Children are watching you. Okay? Children are watching you. If you put a filter on because you think it's fun and cute, fine. But if you put a filter on because you don't want to show up looking like a person, children are watching you. You are too old to be showing up with a filter. If that is a filter, it looks like a filter. If it's not a filter, my bad, girl. Okay.
Enormous amount of weight, in part because I had never gained a huge amount of weight to begin with. I basically went from being about 25-ish pounds over what had historically been my normal weight for almost a decade to going back down to what had always been my regular size and fitting back into my clothes. At no point throughout this process was I ever medically underweight or anywhere close to it. I was briefly medically overweight, but the range was not huge for me, but I did still feel like, I just want to be a transparent person with my platform always, whether that's to do with my money or any kind of cosmetic interventions or weight loss or anything.
That's the problem. I really think this isn't any of our business. I really think we have to be very careful. Like, look, it's really difficult because we get so comfortable as being YouTubers. We get comfortable with our Discords. We get comfortable with our spaces. And look, our audience gets comfortable with us, but you really got to stay out of each other's business. Okay. It's not our job to, anything. Like, it's just not our business. And we have to go back to this not being our business, because if you want to share it 6 months in, 12 months in later, that's fine. But this video essay didn't have to be personal. It could have been the same topic with the same opinion, but we didn't know Chelsea had done it or it involved her, because we as an audience shouldn't feel entitled to this information. There are certain circumstances in which maybe that information is a little bit more entitled, like maybe we're more entitled to it. Maybe if Chelsea is like, I don't know, maybe there's a context for it. But that's the problem, is like we shouldn't feel like these people need to share everything with everyone. And that's kind of like, there's a dilemma here that I'm having, I guess, with like, how do you talk about something? Well, I think that's the, maybe that's just a struggle of doing I content, is like, we get to talk about I. This is what I would do. Yeah, I get it. I share a lot about my life. I do. But some things really are private. I mean, there are things like the internet will never know, but it's because like, nobody needs to know these things. Like, there are just things that are private. I was debating if I had cancer and was going to die, if I would even tell you guys, because this is my business. Again, I will make that decision if I ever come to it. But like, I don't feel like, when I think about long term and I think about being sick, my first thought is like, not to tell the internet. My first thought is like, how do I tell my family and friends? Or like, how do I make this make sense? But yeah, Chet says, but I think that's the problem. The problem is saying it's unattainable. People feel entitled to know how you attained it. The weight. But I didn't even notice Chelsea lost weight. That's what I'm saying. I didn't even notice. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, she didn't even lose that much weight, girl. Nobody noticed. Like, did anybody notice that Chelsea lost weight? We all watch her. I didn't notice. It was 20 pounds. Do you know what I mean? Like, maybe if somebody knows, I didn't fucking notice. So I didn't have to know. So if somebody was like, oh my God, Chelsea, how have you lost this weight? She doesn't have to answer it. It's different if it's like an extreme noticeable thing. Then it's like, hey guys, I know you're asking. I'd rather not talk about like what decisions I made to transform my body. She could say that. She could say, yes, I am using things to transform my body. I'd rather not talk about it. But you know what I'm saying? Something like that.
Anything like that, I think it's kind of my responsibility, especially as someone who does have this public platform and really advocates for transparency in media, but also specifically because I didn't want someone to say, oh, I think Chelsea looks like she's lost a little bit of weight since last year. I wonder how she did it, and not have the full picture of the truth. Now, if you want to get a full breakdown of my experience on a GLP-1, it is linked in the description. I don't want to go on an 8-minute digression about it here, but suffice to say, I am someone I've mentioned many times on the channel who has historically dealt with anxiety, and I went through some incredibly stressful times over the past few years, specifically to do with my business and it being really struggling. We're in a good place now. We give it up to God, thank God. But in all seriousness, my way of coping in that moment with serious anxiety was to really, really, really heavily binge eat sugar. That has always been a problem for me. And it really flared up, especially in like the 2022 to 2024 time period. And I felt really debilitated by it, kind of ashamed of it. It was a really, really vicious cycle. And for those who are not super familiar with GLP-1 drugs, one of the really interesting impacts they have is a profound effect on any kind of compulsive behavior or even anxiety-driven behavior. A lot of people who take these drugs report that they lose interest in things like drinking, smoking cigarettes, gambling, online shopping, really anything that's being used to kind of artificially regulate your nervous system or give you quick dopamine hits. That was certainly my case. I basically stopped binge eating sugar overnight, but I essentially also reduced all of my other bad habits. And even though I've not been taking these drugs for about 4 months now, I still feel those effects. Like, I'm still not really that interested in binge eating or doing anything that is kind of a self-soothing measure from that perspective. I joked in my TikTok that I feel like a GLP-1 is the only thing in my life that has ever like genuinely cured my anxiety, which is somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but
Look, I know listen, I'm autistic. My facial expressions don't mean it. They're not as judgy as They don't express as much judginess as that facial expression conveys. I saw myself in the viewfinder. I'm not that. Listen, I have to trust that Chelsea's talking to their doctor. I got to trust that they have a therapist on hand. I have to trust all these things. I don't know. As somebody who's diagnosed with anxiety, I don't know, girl. Everyone's got a different method that will help them. If this has helped, it better show up in your content, because Chelsea's bad attitude in her content the last few months has shown. And I am hoping that in the next 3 to 6 months, we'll see the effects of it. And that's what we'll see. We'll see. Because right now, it has felt like she has been going through something for a really long time. Like, people were thinking she was going to get divorced. Like, this is what people were saying in the comments. Like, oh my God, do you think she's like on the rocks with her husband? And I'm like, I don't know. But that's the thing. Like, does Chelsea understand the way she's being read by the audience is like, hey, are you going through it? And then she's like, you know, no, I think chat's really right here. My chat says, I think she's afraid of coming across as a hypocrite if she's being critical of people taking the GLP-1 in the past. I agree. I think she's self-conscious. I think it's very neurodivergent of her. I think she is very self-conscious that she is talking about something she has a personal experience with, and then she's worried people will find out, and then they'll be like, oh my God, Chelsea wasn't transparent. There's a lot of pressures here. Okay. I remember when Ethan Klein was losing a lot of weight, people were like, oh my God, he's on Ozempic. And he's like, I'm not on Ozempic. I'm doing something different. Or like, I'm doing it the old fashioned way. Or like, you know, that's the problem, is like, eating disorders are real. All of these things are real. They're real struggles. And that's why I say, like, be very cautious about how you come to the internet. I know as a content creator myself, and I do this full time, yes, the comment sections are very impactful. Congratulations, we're human. And I know that it is my job to make sure that I ask myself, why does this comment bother me? And really get to the root of it. Because does it bother me because they're seeing something I don't agree with? Is it bothering me because it's so stupid it racks my brain? Does it bother me because I'm annoyed? Like, does it bother me because it's hateful? Like, why does it bother me? And then really go from there. So again, I am hoping, and not that Chelsea should watch this video or anything, but I'm hoping if anyone's in Chelsea's position and they're suffering the way she is, I implore you to use every tactic available to you in order to find the one that works for you. But to engage in like a deconstruction that says, why am I worried about what I look like to such an extent that I'm still focused on being young and thin? Like, young and thin, did we leave that behind in the 90s? I guess not. It's back again. Guess who's back? Back again. You know what I mean? And that's the problem, is like, hey, I thought we went past that. Now listen, I'm going through a body transformation myself. I'm on a current body goal journey. I'm really working on it. My body goal journey is totally different than what everyone else is trying to do. I'm trying to get jacked, you know, but also I'm trying to get fat down so my abs show, and I have toned muscles. And then here's my goal. So I'm a goal girly. My goal is to spend the next 1 to 2 years getting this body transformation goal. Once I hit it, my plan is to go back eating bread and pizza every day. And if I gain a bunch of weight, fuck's given. Fuck's given. I've given myself permission to enjoy this body goal weight and to have a lot of fun with it. And also, I need to eat pizza. I need to eat cheese. Well, vegan cheese. I eat vegan cheese. Guys, I made the most amazing vegan mac and cheese the other day. Fucking killed it, bro. But I can't just be eating that all day. Okay, it's very fattening, very fattening. Okay, if I want this body goal. But once I hit this body goal, I'm going straight back. Okay, the idea is like, I want to do it. I think it'd be a lot of fun. And if I can get bigger, I can still lift weights. I just maybe won't focus on ab showing as much. But the idea is to free myself. But the goal right now is that it sounds fun. So I'm doing it. I'm neurodivergent and this sounds fun right now. Remember how I was doing those 30-day challenges? Well, I just picked a 2-year one. And I'm doing pretty good. Okay? I'm pretty happy. I don't know. See, you guys probably haven't noticed, but I am having a body transformation. It took 2 months and my face looks so different. My body looks different when I'm naked. I'm like, there it is. I see it. But the weight on the scale has not changed. The weight on the scale has not changed. It's not about numbers on the scale all the time, you know?
Having taken a lot of pharmaceuticals over the years, not for many years now, but especially in the early days of being diagnosed with generalized anxiety, nothing has ever had the benefits, except for one other thing that I can't really talk about on here because it's For those who have read How to Change Your Mind, but you'll get what I'm talking about. But anyway.
She's so millennial. She's such a millennial. She's such a mom millennial. What was finger guns, Chelsea? I love her, bro. I do. I have a soft spot for Chelsea. I hope she fucking gets back on the horse, baby. Finger guns, Chelsea?
Suffice to say,
Hilarious.
it has been hugely impactful in a positive way for me. And yes, weight loss was part of it. Like I said, I had been at a relatively stable weight for the better.
She's like, I've done marijuana. She's like, I did cocaine once. Like, what drug, girl? We've all done drugs. Do you know what I'm saying? Her being like, if you know, you know, it was meth. It's like, okay, girl, we get it, girl.
Part of a decade, ballooned up in a relatively short period of time, felt uncomfortable all the time, couldn't wear any of my clothes. And I was really happy to have some help in getting back down to the size I had always been and feeling more comfortable in my body. It also helped kickstart a lot of really, really healthy habits for me that have continued. Like I said, I'm not taking them currently, but I still get these days between 15 and 20,000 steps a day, which is kind of crazy. But it's been very helpful.
Is insane. Where you walking, girl? 15 to 20,000 steps a day. Is she walking all over New York? Or is she doing that? See, is she on the trend? That's what I'm saying. Are you getting 20,000 steps a day because you are forcing yourself to do that? Or are you doing it because you're walking New York City? Is it because she's in France?
For it also helped kickstart a lot of really, really healthy habits for me that have continued. Like I said, I'm not taking them currently, but I still get these days between 15 and 20,000 steps a day, which is kind of crazy. But it's been very helpful for.
Damn. That's crazy. She said she's in France, right? To be honest, I'd be working. Yeah, but she has a job. How does she? That's what I'm saying. If she has a full-time job where she works from home, why is she getting 20? See, that's a red flag for me. I need to know why you're getting that many steps in. Because if you're working 8 hours a day at home, then why are you leaving your house to walk 20,000 steps unless you're literally a pro runner or you're afraid to gain weight? Is she so terrified of gaining weight she's walking 20,000 steps? Or is she on vacation in France and so she's getting those steps in? You know what I'm saying? Like, but why are you walking that much? And plus, I've read so many studies on this. You really see no benefits past 10,000 steps. Even 10,000, you don't see as many benefits. So I'm curious, like, what benefits is she getting walking 20,000 steps? That's what I want to know. And I live in Croatia. Trust me, we walk and take the bus. I get it. We don't even have a car. I don't own a car, right? But even when we walk to town or we're walking around town, we do less than 10,000 steps. So the question is like, how are you walking that? Chet said the most steps I ever did in a day was 24K in New York. I was walking the whole day. Wouldn't be time to work. That makes sense to me. So yeah, I want to know how she got those steps in. Because it takes time. It really takes time to get steps in. And I know because I struggle to get my steps in every day because I work so much. And that's why I know that is my next fitness goal is I got to figure out when to get my steps in. And I just don't know when to do it. I'm working 12 hours a day. My stream starts at 4 p.m. The sun is down by the time I'm out. I'm not a morning girly. I'm so cranky in the morning. The last thing I want to do is go out in public and see people. I also will not walk on a treadmill. You cannot make me. So like, I'm really struggling when to get my steps in. Maybe I'm just not ready. That's what I think it is. I just don't think I'm ready to do steps. But eventually I need to get my steps in. So I'm like, when do you have time to get steps in, girl?
Energy levels, maintaining a healthy relationship to hunger cues, and just generally I sleep better. Like I could list forever the benefits that I felt from these drugs. Your mileage may vary, but I can say quite certainly that having been, and I was, just for clarity, not on Ozempic, I was on Mounjaro, but whatever. I can just say though that for me, I know many people who have taken these drugs, some who disclose, some who don't, but that's another story. Pretty much universally, I've never heard someone have a negative experience with them. I don't doubt that they exist. And for some people, there are more.
That feels irresponsible to say out loud.
Serious side effects than others. I didn't really have any. But I will just say, especially with people who have really historically struggled with things like weight loss, PCOS, compulsive eating, or other compulsive behaviors, these drugs do feel miraculous and genuinely help a lot of people live much healthier lives. So I say all that to say, when you see a photo of an extremely unhealthy celebrity who was already at a normal or underweight BMI to begin with, suddenly becoming extremely thin, the fact that our first comment is something like Ozempic or what have you, it feels a bit frustrating and disingenuous to me because, to be very clear, when you look at the larger data around GLP-1 drugs, far and away, these are not being used by already skinny people to get insanely skinny. That is not how these drugs are being used in aggregate. First of all, because there aren't that many skinny people in America to begin with. But even still, most people...
Isn't America the healthiest? Isn't it the skinniest and fattest place on the planet? Fun. How is she making fun of fat people? How many skinny people in America? Let me see. As of late 2025, approximately 37% of the US adults are classified as obese. So 63% are not in this category. Talk about propaganda, bro. See how that's fat phobic propaganda to make America sound fat? You know what I'm saying? Like, most Americans are not fat. That's just our stereotype. You know what I mean? We're like in different variations of maybe chubby or skinny. But like, you know what I mean? Okay. I don't know. I just feel like that's a fat phobic, like, she's acting like, oh, it's an epidemic. Like, oh my God. Yeah, people are unhealthy, bro, for a lot of reasons. It's more than just what you look like. Again, this is so reductive. It's more than just what you look like. It's what we're eating. It's longevity. Like, it's about a well-rounded diet. Trust me, as somebody who has so many neurodivergent friends, it is very hard for the people that I love or the people that I know, because I'm such a, everyone always comes to me for cooking, to eat their vegetables, to get a well-rounded diet. I struggle to get fruit in. I have to remind myself to go buy cantaloupe or something. You know what I mean? So again, like, when we think about like what is healthy, I'm more concerned with like, are you even doing the basics, bro? Are you even making sure you're eating a fucking vegetable once a day? Like, let's be so fucking for real. You know what I mean? I don't know.
People are using.
Well, chat said, last I heard 2/3 of US adults are overweight or obese by BMI standards. BMI is bullshit. Fuck the BMI. Fuck BMI.
Them to either get to or stay within a healthy weight range, period. Let's start there. And it's also very helpful for them overall in terms of living a healthier life. But I also think it's extremely naive to assume that celebrities who are getting and staying really thin are doing it exclusively or even primarily through GLP-1s. Lest we forget, many other drugs have historically been abused in order to stay thin, some of which are other types of pharmaceuticals that are being used off-label, such as amphetamines, which are, let's be clear, still very popular amongst the unhealthy weight loss set, but also illegal street drugs that also help you stay very thin. There's also standard issue disordered eating, which can these drugs be a part of? Absolutely, but are not necessarily required to do. And I think that there sometimes can be an unfair extra speculation on GLP-1s in particular about, well, some people are abusing them, so they're sort of
That's how I feel about drugs. That's how I feel about cocaine. Damn, just because cocaine has a bad reputation of being laced with fentanyl doesn't mean cocaine's bad. You know what I mean? Like, y'all are just haters on cocaine. I'm being a little jokey, but still, like, we're acting like everything doesn't have this reputation. The issue is, and for her to say anecdotally, no one in my life has had a negative experience doing this thing. Okay, nobody in my life has had a bad experience doing cocaine or meth. That doesn't mean people don't have bad experiences doing meth or cocaine.
Inherently not good or should inherently be regarded with judgment or skepticism.
Okay, technically that was a lie. Some people in my life did have a bad experience with meth.
I would disagree and say that the potential for misuse is there with essentially every category of drug. And I don't think a drug...
And technically, my brother didn't have the greatest experience on coke that one time. And technically, some of his friends have died. Okay, you know what? That's not the point. That's not the point.
Efficacy or value to the people who take them in a healthy way should be judged by the people who abuse them. Again, even assuming that these ultra-thin celebs are exclusively getting there via Ozempic or whatever. But anyway, all of that is to say, to me, that is often the first part of...
Look, the reason I don't even like to use the word diet, okay, the word diet, is because I don't want you to think, like, when I say, like, oh, I'm on a new diet, I just mean I'm on a new framework. I broke the construct I had before and I'm in a new construct. And I don't like the word diet because it sounds like I'm not like living my best life. Guys, I'm eating so fucking good right now. You should be fucking jealous. I wish I could feed you what I eat every day. I feel like I am eating food that slaps, bro. Okay? Like, it's so good. And it's helping me reach my goals. And I'm just like loving the fuck out of the food I'm eating. And so like, I need you to know, I am not restricting my eating. I'm not like denying myself stuff. When I said like, oh, in 2 years, I'm going to be eating pizza, need you to understand, look, I love flour, but flour it is just like, I don't even know how to explain to you how hard it is to not eat 3,000 calories of flour. Okay. Listen to me around bread, girl, it's over. And if I just eat bread all day, I'm not going to get my vegetables in. That's why I like pizza, because I can put vegetables on my pizza. It's a win-win. You know what I'm saying? But I love flour. So I get it. I love bread. But I can't just be eating bread over here. Okay, I could just eat bread all day. and butter, bread and butter, vegan butter. You know what I'm saying? You can't do that. That's not a good diet. But it tastes good. So again, it's not my weight that's the consequence of my issues. It's the overall health of what I'm eating. That's my issue.
That is deeply missing from this conversation. That's either like idolizing ultra thinness, which we're going to discuss here, but many people very much still do, or really demonizing and stigmatizing these weight loss drugs, which I think is just not really fair to do either. Especially when you consider, and this is the other area where I fear we are missing nuance, and I'm like a little bit treading lightly here because I don't want to get canceled, but we also have to acknowledge what is currently happening in America from a health perspective and the backdrop against which this is all occurring. I'm just gonna have to say this. I know that some people are gonna really flip out on me in the comments, but there's really no way to have this part of the conversation without acknowledging that obesity in America is a thing. It is a problem. It leads to really devastating health outcomes.
This is the millennial in her. This is the millennial.
For all kinds of people, and has been increasing over the past, let's say, 40-ish years. If you don't accept that that is true, we just can't find any common ground on this part of the conversation, but at least to some extent, the data doesn't lie here. It's also...
Okay, now, this triggered this... nope, it triggered, hold on, I'm gonna get there. This one. Hey Chelsea, I appreciate your nuanced takes on this topic. As always, just wanted to add my 2 cents as a resident MD, and I've worked with many different attending doctors from both the health at every size perspective and people who think everyone with a BMI over 25 should be on a GLP-1. I think ultimately we have a problem with health in America, referring to the problem as an obesity crisis causes more harm than good. Will those of us who know about this stuff know that the obesity crisis means that we have an exceedingly large number of people who are metabolically unhealthy. I think the general public still hears that and thinks that we have an epidemic of fat people, which ultimately leads to more fat phobia and stigma. I don't know what the right answer is. Personally, I would just say that America is set up to promote metabolic illness. I know that's wordy, but I think we have to make sure we talk about these things that doesn't further stigmatize fatness. As you rightly discussed with the article you mentioned, not all fat people are sick and not all thin people are healthy. Chelsea replied and said, fair enough. I appreciate the gentle correction. I'll think more about nuanced terms I can use. She's aging herself when she says fair enough as well. I've also decided that when Chelsea says fair enough, it's very boomer or millennial. I'm not sure which, but who says that? But old people. Fair enough. Fair enough. It's like, girl, stop saying fair enough. Yeah. Chat said, oh, professional is being fair enough. Yeah, like, fair enough sounds like I'm defensive, but I'm trying to say like, okay. It feels like yes, it's a good correction. This is just a very boomer talking point here. Like, we're in an obesity crisis. Girl, we're in a mental health crisis. We're in a fascism crisis. We're in a Nazi crisis. We're in a racist crisis. We're in a crisis. I don't know about you, but the building is on fire and you're worried about this corner over here. I'm just kind of focused on getting the fire put out.
Also worth noting that there have been recent efforts to change how we categorize obesity, because BMI, as many people have pointed out, is actually not a sufficient marker of overall health in relationship to the amount of fat that we have. But unfortunately, in making those criteria more nuanced and more inclusive of different ways that unhealthy levels of adipose tissue can negatively impact the human body, by those metrics, America actually has more of a problem. Quote, we already thought we had an obesity epidemic, but this is astounding, said co-first author Lindsay Foreman, a Mass General endocrinologist and an assistant professor at Harvard Medical School. Traditionally, obesity has been defined by BMI, which estimates body fat based on a person's weight and height. But other anthropomorphic measures, such as waist circumference, waist to height ratio, or waist to hip ratio, may further account for fat distribution and aid in differentiation between muscle and fat mass. Under this new framework, a person is classified as having obesity if they have a high BMI plus at least one elevated anthropometric measure, a condition the authors term BMI plus anthropometric obesity, or if they have a normal BMI and at least 2 elevated anthropometric measures, a condition termed anthropometric only obesity. Obesity prevalence was 68.6% with the new definition versus 42.9% under the traditional BMI-based definition. This increase was entirely driven by inclusion of individuals with anthropometric only obesity. Obesity rates varied by sex, race, and especially by age, affecting nearly 80% of adults over 70. And I want to say here that I think...
Okay, wait, pause. Chat saying, I say fair enough when I don't agree, but I want to sound semi-open. And then chat says, fair enough is like, I doubt what you're saying, but I'll concede. And then Chad said, fair enough is a common use in the UK, casual acquaintance conversation when you don't want to make someone feel judged kind of thing. But the problem is, like, we know that, so there is a judgment. Now, listen, I'm autistic, and when I get corrected, sometimes it takes a second for my brain to transition. And I think she's ADHD, and I think that plays a role. Also notice that Chelsea is ADHD and almost never makes content about it. She makes more content about the way she looks than how her neurodivergency plays a role on how she views the world. So I do think she struggles and she doesn't want to embrace the neurodivergency because I think it makes her a freak. I think Chelsea wants to be normal. And normal is a made-up term created by people like who want to be the popular kids in high school. I think Chelsea she wants to be whatever fantasy she has in her head. It's like, I think I'm her worst nightmare. I think I am probably her worst nightmare. And I look at her like, hey, your life looks nice. Also looks a little constrained. It looks like you follow a lot of rules. Do you like these rules? Do these rules make you happy? You look kind of grumpy. Hey, why are you grumpy? And she's just like, I feel like I'm like, if Chelsea and I hung out, we would have a good time because we're both nice people. But more than that, I think I'd probably make her feel very uncomfortable because I'd probably be socially awkward. I'd probably eat soup with the wrong spoon. Chelsea talks about coming from a poor background, but she's giving poor girl who wants to be a rich girl, but she'll always be a poor girl. Because rich people don't want poor people involved. So if she comes from a poor background and you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like she doesn't look, I moved to the Balkans. Okay. I married a Croat. Okay. They have cigarettes and coffee for breakfast. The Europe I moved to was not the Europe Chelsea moved to in France. I moved to the other Europe. And honestly, I feel right at home. That's what I'm saying. I feel right at home over here, girl. Okay. A little bit of coffee and espresso for breakfast, espresso and a cigarette for breakfast. Honestly, vibes. Chelsea didn't move there. I don't smoke, but you know what I'm saying? If I did, you know, and Chelsea moved to France where I think she is trying to be fancy French, you know, and I think it's ruining her. I think Chelsea should start smoking. I don't think Chelsea should start smoking, but it might help her. It honestly might help. You know what I mean?
Part of the reason that this conversation gets so convoluted with regards to obesity and the impact that it has on American health is because it has historically been so moralized and so full of judgment and stigma and shame. And I want to acknowledge that, at least for me, one of the most valuable parts of taking a GLP-1, or what I've seen in terms of conversations with other people who have also taken these drugs, is it really...
Wait, Discord said... well, the French too. Well, of course, the French have cigarettes and espresso, but it feels like she's not in that bubble. She needs to hang out with the French people that are like, these capitalists, they fucking suck. Je m'appelle Chelsea. America. You know, she needs to hang out with the French who are like, the bourgeoisie. You know what I mean? She doesn't.
Makes so clear so quickly how much this is not a character flaw, this is not a personal issue, this is not a lack of willpower. This is a result of living in an environment for prolonged periods of time that is really designed to make people unhealthy and to keep them unhealthy because it's very lucrative to do so. Something that we know, but I think often don't necessarily put language to, is that obesity is
fuck out of that burger. A vegan burger, of course. I'd eat the fuck out of that vegan burger.
Much, much more complex than just a lack of willpower. And it is arguably much more driven by the impact on hormones, metabolism, and brain function that we get from...
Yeah, she needs to hang out with the French women that are always protesting. Those French ladies, they're fucking always out here with their fists held high, their fucking painted skin. Chelsea needs to go protest. Okay? Chelsea needs to go fucking do some shit. That's the problem. I think Chelsea wants to be like I went to the Louvre and it was really lovely. I don't know why I made her British. I really love the Louvre. It's really like, wow. You know, she's trying to be like, oh, you know what I mean? Instead of like, you know, fuck the man. That's the problem. Chelsea has to protest patriarchy more.
Eating specifically so many ultra-processed foods in America. It is also impacted by things like our extremely sedentary culture.
Because look. This is the difference between America and Europe. First of all, pizza in Europe slaps. It's literally not as heavy. They give you a whole fucking pie, and after you eat it, you don't feel bad about yourself. In America, you eat a pizza, you eat 2 slices of pizza, and you want to kill yourself. My friend said that. She's like, girl, I was in Italy, and I just ate a whole pizza by myself, and I felt great. And I was like, I know. In Croatia, you could eat like a whole pizza and feel like Fabulous. In America, I never ate Domino's. I never ate pizza in America. I always made my own pizza because every pizza place, unless it was like a really amazing grill place, always made me feel like I hated myself after. I'm sorry, like American pizza is just like a heart attack waiting to happen. But in Europe, the pizza here is, or at least in Croatia and Italy, oh my God. The pizza is so different. It's so good.
Heavily reliant on cars, sitting constantly, etc. But ultra-processed foods really are one of the things in America that we can directly point to and say, like, these are making us very unhealthy, even compared to other wealthy Western nations. Quote, overall, about 55% of total calories consumed by Americans aged 1 or older came from ultra-processed foods, according to one report. For adults, ultra-processed food made up about 53% of total calories consumed, but for kids through age 18, it was nearly...
I like these people who are so afraid of ultra-processed foods are like, oh my God, tofu's so ultra-processed, but you're sitting there eating a bag of Doritos. With peace and love, guys, pick and choose your battles. Also, you're allowed to have a fucking bag of Doritos and some tofu. Relax.
At least 62%. The top sources included burgers and sandwiches, sweet baked...
Look, this reminds me of the mom on TikTok who goes shopping with her 2 kids and she buys them the most packaged, like, processed foods. Look, 90% of your diet, not processed. Whatever that means, fresh vegetables, soups, whatever. And then at the end of the day, processed foods is not the worst thing ever. It's not the processed foods. It's the which food, how is it made? Ultra processed doesn't always mean what we think. I think that's the other thing. None of us know what we're talking about. And so we get these scare tactics from these companies that are trying to get us to buy their products, and then we don't know what we're eating. I think that's another play of this. I don't know what I'm talking about. I just hope I'm making a good decision in eating fresh veggies and fruits, and also like tofu, and also like vegan cheese, and also like it's like I don't know. I'm just trusting, but I know that I can't live off potato chips. Potato chips are so cheap. Croatia, like potato chips are so cheap. You can get a bag of potato chips for €1.99, and it's like a good bag of potato chips. The dilemma, it's like 500 calories, 550 calories for the bag of potato chips, or maybe it depends on the bag. It could be up to 700, but let's say it's like 500 calories or 700 calories for a whole bag of potato chips for $1.99, right? Sounds good. But you eat the bag of potato chips and then you feel like you want to kill yourself because it's so heavy with oils, because it's like it's not Ruffles, but it's like Ruffles adjacent, but it's like heavy with oil. It's so bad. I feel like death. Guys, I did it one day a long time ago before I went on this new journey that I'm doing. I ate a bag of potato chips because I was like, fuck it. Enjoying my life. Okay. The instant regret. Now, let me tell you a secret that I've heard from men in my life in America who struggle. This is what they tell me. That feeling where they really feel bad, they just keep eating more. They just keep feeling bad every day. And I'm saying that's the problem. You know what I mean? That's the problem. Okay? The problem is that like, you don't, when I feel bad, I go, oh, I don't want to do that again. How do I feel good? And then I do that. So I found like, oh yeah, 100 grams of potato chips to feel great. Okay, 500 grams of potato chips, feel bad. You know what I mean? And this is, I think because I was raised, or maybe that I'm a Taurus, who knows what it is. But when I am doing something and I'm not happy, if my body's upset, I go, how do I fix this? I can't tell you how many people go, I feel really bad. I'm just going to keep feeling really bad. And I'm like, where's the sense of control in your life, bro? And this goes for how you look to everything else. If you feel bad every day, this is a red flag. Now, you might have said, well, Brittany, in your 20s, you felt bad every day and you didn't go to therapy until you were 28, and you would be correct. Because in my mind, I was working, I was paying my bills, I was in relationships, I was volunteering, I was protesting. My mental health being bad wasn't a red flag because I thought I thought this was normal. I thought my mental health was going to be the rest of my life. And then I realized like, this doesn't have to be the rest of my life. Like I can be better. Holy fuck, life changer. Same thing with everything else. Not only can your mental health get better, your relationship with your body can get better, your relationship with your money can get better, your relationship with everything can get better. Yeah, you don't have to live the rest of your life in pain. I say this as a chronically ill girly who's in pain 24/7, but it's a different kind of pain. I can't do anything about my fibro pain. It is what it is. I do my best, but at least I know why it's happening. Every other pain in my life, I do my best to get rid of that. So I'm already dealing with this 24-hour pain. You know what I'm saying? Because just a reminder, as cheery as I am and as good in spirits as I am in total pain all the time. And I don't take anything for it currently because I haven't found anything that helps. So I'm chillaxing. I might take an antidepressant in the future, some help apparently. But for now, the best I can do is diet and exercise and a good attitude. So
goods, savory snacks, pizza, and sweetened drinks. This is not to say that these foods are the exclusive reason why we're suffering so many downstream negative health impacts, including obesity and related issues, but it is an enormous part of the problem because quite literally, these foods are designed in a literal laboratory to be addictive, to make it very difficult.
Okay, I'll say this. Sorry, one last time. If Chelsea lived in California, I would assume she's from Orange County, where I grew up, because she looks like she's from Orange County. If you know, you know.
To eat or focus on or be sated by other things. They are designed to be addictive in the way drugs are designed to be addictive. And we can see that their impact on the brain is very similar to that of a drug. And so it's really important to say that like Americans who are overwhelmingly dealing with the negative impacts of being addicted to these foods, and Diva, we've all been there, myself included, need to both acknowledge that that is not a personal failing, that is the system working as it was designed to. But it doesn't mean that it's not a problem. And it doesn't mean that getting treatment for that problem or moving away from that problem is not a healthy thing. So I think the other area of nuance that we've been really missing in this conversation is like, when you look at scale, on no pun intended, of what America's problem actually is, like where we're really seeing the most disastrous outcomes for the largest amount of people, like it is overwhelmingly not people being too thin. Like that does exist, and having it in the public eye, especially when we are still dealing with.
Wait, chat said, I would assume she came from a bougie area of where I live. Yeah, like Orange County is like a suburb of California. It's south of LA, but it's very fancy. Not every area in Orange County. There are definitely some areas that are not fancy whatsoever, but the fancy places, like I grew up across the tracks from the fancy place, but I had friends who lived in the very fancy places. It was fancy. And I think she looks like she fit in with those people, you know? See, I was always too rebellious for Orange County, but honestly, I have great memories there.
An obesity crisis of this magnitude, like it does increasingly feel like a very sinister performance on the part of a few rich, famous, beautiful elites to sort of demonstrate how much restraint that they can exercise in the face of just an overwhelming availability of really, really, really unhealthy, nutritionally void, calorically dense, ultra-processed foods. But that is not the average problem here. I also want to note that like there is something so particularly sinister given America's really troublesome relationship with ultra-processed foods, how much these visibly extremely underweight celebrities try to seem relatable via pretending to eat these foods all the time. Like
probably eat pizza at least once a day.
Celebrities on red carpets, like going out of their way to gorge themselves on a burger.
Look, I don't know what's going on with those people because they could be eating them and binging. They could be throwing up. They could be like mukbangers. A lot of them like pretend they're eating the food and spit it out. Like, look, I'm not here to judge. I think the world is an unhealthy place. I'm concerned about everything. But also, when did we start taking celebrities seriously in interviews? As if it isn't all like marketing through their agency, right? Like a certain level of fame. You know what I mean? Like,
so they seem funny, even though they've undoubtedly been starving themselves for weeks leading up to the red carpet, so they looked as perfect as possible in the photos. Like grotesque, utterly grotesque.
Don't say it. It's Chelsea, bro. It's not grotesque. It's just life, bro. It's sad. And you have to make a decision. Do you really want to do this? Because I do think those people are suffering. And I think like that's their journey. But like, you know, she's negative, right? Grotesque, scary, frightening. Like she's talking about people's bodies, but I think what she means to comment on is the situation that put them there. But it sounds like she's commenting on the girls. But like the girls are just a product of the bubble, bro. And it sucks. But you're asking them to break a cycle of a journey that has been 100 times harder and pressured than yours has. And you can't even break yours. Do you know what I mean? Like she is literally admitting she felt pressured enough to use this drug. And also she's not even experiencing like 10% of the pressure these girls feel. So like, why are you even talking about them? Do you know what I'm saying? At least I'm not super famous. At least my picture isn't on a billboard. At least I'm not constantly being paparazzi'd. Like we all struggle with our bodies, but now imagine your body's being photographed and put on magazines all the fucking time. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know.
I completely understand why it elicits such a visceral reaction in us and why it feels so offensive and so insulting to our intelligence and why it's easy to focus on these ultra thin celebrities. But I do think we cannot lose focus on the fact that that is a different problem. It is not a problem. It is also not the biggest problem. And just because they exist does not mean we need to lean into the extreme of therefore demonizing anything that is helpful to weight loss. Like, those two things to me can coexist. Like, yes, some people can be very publicly unhealthy about weight loss, and weight loss is not inherently a bad thing. Targeted weight loss is not always an indicator of vanity ? Or wanting to be unhealthy or wanting to perform a certain type of beauty in a certain type of way. Like, I think we can separate those two things and also note that the scale of those two problems is different.
They are different, and I think we should pay attention to that and embrace that, which is why I tried to say, like, look, I'm trying to get a different body comp too. But again, the goal isn't to quote lose weight. The goal is to change the way my body looks so the composition matches the inside and the outside the inside. And I look the way that makes sense for what I want. Because even if I go back to eating pizza and bread and not like being too, being a little bit more relaxed with it, I still want to make sure my body composition is like there. Like, I want to build muscle. I want to get bigger. That also helps that I do want to get bigger. I think that's also part of the problem is like, I'm not trying to get smaller. So I think that's the problem is like, people are struggling in that way because I think the pressure is to be smaller. Yeah, I'm just, okay. I've already been bigger. I've already been smaller. I will say I have a preference for how I look, and I know what that is, and it's really my preference. Right? Like, that's really my preference, but it took a long time to really know what my preference was. So I just recommend you really decide, what do you want to look like, and embrace it. I just wish Chelsea, who interviews all these women who claim they're so confident about themselves, would actually really have the bodies they want and look the way they do, instead of creating narratives around this body transformation as like something society is pressuring. Because I feel like I'm doing that really well. Am I wrong? Do I feel like I'm not? I feel like I'm doing it really well, where I'm saying like, yeah, girl, like, just make sure why you're transforming your body. But otherwise, like, I feel like I'm not taking it personal, but Chelsea is, because I don't feel judged for what I've done to my body, because I get it. It's a very touchy subject. Like, people are going to get judgy about it. And also, it probably helps that I haven't taken this drug. But even if I had, go fuck yourself. What are you going to judge me for? You know what I mean? Like, you can't judge me and call yourself progressive. You don't know why people are taking drugs. Like, if you're really progressive, you can't be judging people. You can use discernment. You can talk about how you feel about it, but you can't sit here and talk about patriarchy and body struggles and then judge people for giving into the system. Like, girl, it's what it is. People are unhealthy. What are you judging people for being unhealthy for, But you can give people a side eye about cheating on their spouses, but don't give people a side eye for using a weight loss drug. Like, that's the struggle of the system, bro. And also, it's the struggle of our mental health. And also, I would recommend figuring it out, obviously. But you know what I mean? She's just like, it feels like she needs to, it's okay that she's struggling. Maybe it's not so great that she's moving through it on her income or something.
Different. It just is.
On her content. Oh my God.
I also want to acknowledge, although I'm not going to get really into it in this video because we actually have a whole video about it coming later this month, about specifically the impact of BMI on earning potential, because that is a whole other thing. Like, women are very much punished for being overweight.
This is the capitalist game. Yes, women in certain companies can absolutely be discriminated against. Men get a benefit of being fat more than women do. Yes, beauty discrimination is real. Pretty privilege is real. All of that is scientifically backed. Real studies have been done. And you get to decide how you show up in the world. You get to decide what pressures you give into. You get to decide, because that is your one choice you have in life when you're ready. Not now, when you're not ready. 2, when you are ready. Okay? I remember when I was making the decision about the longevity of my career, because I always knew I was going to be unorthodox. I'm a YouTuber, for fuck's sake. Chelsea's a YouTuber. She should know. See, Chelsea's trying to be a normie YouTuber, because out of all the jobs where you can look the way you want to look, it's YouTube. You can change it. You have to look somewhat presentable. Yes, the audience will judge you. Yes, there's pressures. I agree with all of that. And also, there is always going to be an audience for your niche. She doesn't want the niche she looks like. Something like that is happening. I don't know what it is. Okay. Hold on. I lost my train of thought because I was ranting.
Weight, and it is.
Oh, and okay. when I made my decision, okay, I had to make a decision. First, what topic did I want to talk about for the rest of my life and I would never get bored? Philosophy, easy, never gets bored. Talk about that. Pop culture, philosophy, easy. Second, did I want to do that for the rest of my life? Or did I want to make pretty photo shoots? Because guys, there's a big part of my brain, like 10 to 15 to 20% of my brain is constantly thinking about photo shoots I want to do that I never get a chance to do because I'm doing this full time. My OnlyFans has definitely taken, and I use OnlyFans to make nude art, but there is a part of my brain that wishes I could have been a nude artist. Okay, I could have been really making statement pieces about patriarchy through art. There's a whole part of me that wishes I could have done that. I don't think that's who I am. I don't think that's where my calling is. I think my calling is here. And I still have to ask myself, though, do you want to do cosplay, fashion shoots, art shoots for a living? Because you can. I could kill it. I think I would have been very successful. But I think I would have burnt out and it would have eaten at me and I would have hated myself. So I didn't choose to do it. But I could. I really think I could do it now. I could pivot full time to photography and art, and I think I would find an audience and I think I'd be successful. I just don't think it would fulfill me, right? I don't think it would be what I want versus this. I could do all day. It's all I think about, deconstruction, getting better, helping people, really thinking about structures. And I just, you know what I mean? I don't think Chelsea's asking herself that question, but I think, like I've told you, I've been very transparent about this. Yes, there's an expectation of what I look like, but what I did is I made it work for myself. Example, I didn't want to wear foundation and makeup every day because that's not what I wear in my real life. I didn't want to wear it for stream, but I was willing to do it because people said I looked more awake or they would compliment me more if I did. And so as a YouTuber, you're I guess I have to wear makeup for work, kind of like doing the news. You wear makeup for work. But then I was I don't want to wear makeup for work, but I want to look awake and I want to look presentable. So what do? I invested in skincare. So I've been wearing no makeup. I'm not wearing any makeup today, by the way. No makeup. And I feel like I look really pretty. My hair looks really nice. I think I look really pretty, right? I would expect Chelsea to say I look pretty. Maybe my clothes could be better. I could be more organized. I don't have the budget for that yet, but I'm not wearing any makeup. And I feel like I look really nice. Now, again, the hair looks nice. Maybe it's a lot of other things, but I feel like there's a way to make it work for you. It just takes time figuring it out. It took me 2 to 3 years to figure this out. How do I present? How do I want to look naked? In another 3 years, I'm going to get a wardrobe update. Okay, I'm going to get clothes that I think express my style and stay with me long term. These are ways that I don't spend outside my budget, so I live within my budget and I take my time. And this is why I say my career is really going to be killer in my 40s. My career is going to be the best in my 40s and 50s. I look older, which I want to look older. Okay, I'll lend credit to everything I'm saying. That's what Chelsea's missing. Chelsea, the perk of looking older is you get social credit. People believe you more. She still wants to be wanted. I think she still wants to be sexy. And I'm like, girl, sexy's out. Who cares about being sexy? Let's be taken seriously. The greatest part of looking old and fashionable is people they really hear you. They really, they see a life worth living. Marshall Linehan reference. Okay. That's what I want. I can't wait to get old. Because right now I'm just on the cusp. I look too young to be taken seriously. And I'm also too old to be one of the young girls. And so I'm I can't wait to get older. That's what Chelsea's missing. She's missing the how exciting it's going to be. Because again, I think she forgets she's a YouTuber. She is in media. Plenty of old people are successful online. What business is Chelsea in that she feels she can't look older? As she's interviewing older women on her podcast and talking about their liberation, it's just kind of funny. That's why her audience is confused. Her audience is how are you interviewing these older divorced women about how free their life is in their 40s and 50s, and then you're getting on this YouTube channel and talking about how you don't feel pretty?
Absolutely not lost on me that part of the reason it is so valuable for...
And by the way, she can talk about these insecurities with a therapist. I'm just saying, why are you showing up to work? Imagine she just came into the office and was telling us about this. It's we're a finance channel. Why are we talking about money?
Celebrities, people in the public eye, to be thin, especially very, very thin, is because of that correlation with their perceived value and their earning.
Yeah, Discourse said, does she think her channel is lifestyle or financial? I think she's confused. I think she's in a branding confused.
Potential because basically no industry is as fake it till you make it as the entertainment industry. And I know, like, to quote American Beauty, one must project an image of success at all times in order to be successful. And it would be dishonest not to mention that, again, especially for women, thinness is very much correlated with being perceived as successful, affluent, etc. It is a bit of a chicken or the egg scenario because growing up very thin is also heavily correlated with socioeconomic status. So there's a lot to unpack there, but I do just want to acknowledge that, like, there is a big class implication to performing thinness. But again, on average, that is not the more prevalent problem in the US. All of that said, though, the last place where I fear we are just like allergic to nuance is this conversation around it not being okay to comment on someone's body. To me, the perfect example of this was the interminable Wicked press tour, where we had essentially 2 full years of having to watch a cast where every woman on that cast was getting dangerously thin in front of our eyes, including people beyond our 2 stars, although a lot of the attention was focused on the 2 main actresses in that movie. And there was just like a lot of generally strange, confusing behavior happening on that press tour period. But then also there was this never-ending cycle of discourse. It would essentially be like, they look extremely thin, it's very worrisome, followed by, don't comment on their bodies, followed by, is it actually feminist to acknowledge when women are disappearing in front of us, followed by, actually it's feminist to be any size we want to, and if they're happy, we're happy, and so on and so forth. Like, never ever ending. As a feminist who really dislikes a lot of quote unquote choice feminism, and a good example in this case of quote unquote choice feminism would be like, actually, if a woman wants to be dangerously underweight in the public eye for years on end, that's her feminist choice and she should slay. And it's actually chic or whatever. Like, that to me is complete nonsense. And
the opinion, okay, that's a bad opinion. The right opinion is, it's none of my business. They're obviously struggling. I'm certainly sure that reminding them of their struggle is not going to help. I'm pretty sure they know what they look like, and they probably have a reason why. It's not my business. You know, if they came to me and asked, I would say something. If I talked to my audience, I would say something. We also made videos on this. My opinions stay the same. Whatever they're going through, I hope they're doing well. I'm worried about them. And also, it's none of my business because they probably have family and friends that actually worry about them, and not to be parasocial, but I don't know these girls. And so it'd be almost like performative to say I'm even worried about them because, like, I don't know them. If anything, I'm concerned generally, like from a humanity perspective. And I have to trust they know what they're doing. They're in a position of privilege. They have money and resources, and they're in a really difficult industry. And I hope they're doing okay. But I think they also are playing into sort of the same struggles that all of us are raised in and need the time to deconstruct. And they're not going to get there in an industry that is incredibly exhausting, and you're easily replaced in this industry. So yeah, high performers deal with a lot of stress. This is why I'm not a high performer, because stress is a killer and I'm too pretty to struggle that hard. That's a joke. Okay, no one's too pretty to struggle, but you know, I just unwise suffering. It's unwise suffering. It's unwise suffering. And I'm not interested in it, but I do see it. Like these streamer boys we talk about all the time. Yeah, they're the top streamers and successful because they neglect everything else in their life. Yeah, there's something obviously wrong with a lot of these industries, but it's bigger than their bodies. It's bigger than what their bodies look like. Nobody talks about their work schedules. Nobody talks about how unhealthy these women's work schedules are. I think I'm more concerned with that. That leads to these relationships with their bodies. Let's be honest, like everyone is overworked, even Hollywood stars. I don't know. They do like crazy 8-hour days of makeup and then they film all day. Like, what are we talking about?
And very dangerous, especially for young girls. I think the quote unquote feminist take on the issue of what to do with especially women who are performing extreme dangerous thinness in the public eye on a constant basis is probably pretty muddy, in the sense that I do think that we are on average much more critical of women's appearances and don't hold men to the same standard. Although, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I do think it's increasingly becoming a pretty gender neutral thing of like, if you look bad on a red carpet, let's say, and you specifically look bad in a way that seems as though you tried to look better and failed, which is often what we're talking about here, you will get ripped to shreds. And
that's every person ever who ever existed. 12-year-olds go through this. 13-year-olds go through this. I wore off-brand Ugg boots to high school once, and all the popular girls ran to me so excited. And when they found out it was off-brand Ugg boots, I was banned. They're like, ew. And I was like, oh my God. Okay. Yeah, girl, that's life. It sucks. High school with money. But you know what's ironic? Is I think Chelsea kind of wishes she could pull it off. And I'm saying deconstruct, liberate your soul. This is bad for all of us. Bad. You know what I mean? Like, I hear you. She's right. Deconstruct past it. Leave it in the dust. Move past it. But I agree, society's not going to move, guys. You can't move at this pace of society. You're never going to get there. You got to move faster than society. Turn around, go to the back of the group, and push everybody forward. Okay? You got to get ahead of everybody, figure it out for yourself, turn back around and teach people. Because like if we, you know what I'm saying? We all got to liberate ourselves. But yeah, like I think Chelsea's right about this. I just think her conclusions are not helpful.
I guess in the case of men, you'll be accused of being a body double or a clone. And in the case of women, you'll just be accused of being a vain, miserable bitch. But regardless, it would be dishonest not to acknowledge that we definitely focus more on women's appearances than men's. True. However, I do think that it is...
No. Chet says to give herself the right to comment. Oh yeah, why is she calling it performance? Yeah, I think Chelsea should be careful about how she comments, just to be clear. I'm not saying she should. She's not right to comment about their bodies. She's right to see that there's a problem. I just want to make sure everybody knows that because I don't think she should comment about their bodies.
Very disingenuous and unhealthy and dangerous to normalize, let alone to glamorize women being very visibly dangerously underweight. Like, one area where I will not engage with like the, I guess, theoretically progressive nonsense is like pretending.
Girl.
I will not engage with like the, I guess, theoretically progressive nonsense is like pretending I don't have basic fucking common sense and acknowledging.
Oh, Dave Ramsey, is that you? Is that you, Dave Ramsey? Did she just say common sense? Did she just say common sense on my YouTube?
That like, hey, this woman who's dangerously underweight is obviously dangerously underweight. Like people saying like, we don't know what's healthy for her, blah, blah, blah. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. When a woman is my height.
No, okay. No progressive is saying we don't know what's healthy for them. We're saying we don't know what's wrong. It's none of our business. Like Chadwick Boseman. Okay? We're saying we don't know if it's cancer. We don't know if it's anorexia. We don't know what it is. It's not our business. We're not saying it's healthy. We're saying like, hey, I hope you're okay. That's what progressives are saying. Maybe liberals and choice feminists are saying, you know, we don't know what's healthy for her. Okay, it's not about, that's not what progressives are saying. That's what liberals are saying, if anything. But like progressives are saying like, again, people think they're progressive, but they're not.
I'm almost 5'7". If she's on a red carpet, clearly in the 85 to 95 pound range, like she is very unhealthy. She is sick. Like I'm not going to participate in the absolute nonsense that is pretending we don't know what's right in front of our eyes. Let's start there. I think it is important to acknowledge what is reality and what is common sense.
Yeah, Chet said they went after Chadwick Boseman for his weight. Girls, just a reminder, because I'm going to clip this for YouTube so YouTube can see this shit too, because this is a member stream and I love you. Thank you for being members, guys. I appreciate you being here. Okay. But like Chadwick Boseman, like people were literally making fun of him. They were making fun of him for being skinny. He had cancer. He died. You fucking losers. He died. That's what I'm saying. Like, how fucking dare you? Like, how fucking dare you? That's all we're saying, Chelsea. Progressives are saying, hey, we don't know what's going on in these people's lives. Okay. And we can talk about how under eating and disordered eating and all these things are mental health issues. We have to go to therapy. By the way, has she mentioned therapy for eating at once? Has she said it once? Did she suggest mental health support once? Did she say compassionately, hey, it's really a struggle. I've been struggling myself. It's so hard to get out here and not feel consistently pressured by the world. And I just want better for us. We should definitely see our doctors. We should definitely talk to therapists. Like, you are more than your body. None of that has happened. The girl is going through it. She's too close to the topic. You know what I mean? She's too close to the topic. And so she's feeling defensive. And so she's taking it out on her audience. And the problem is like, that's mental health. We get it, girl. You're suffering. But this is unwise suffering.
And someone might come into this and then say, well, how is that any different from pointing out when a woman is really overweight and acknowledging that for what it is and acknowledging that that is often unhealthy or can have negative health implications? Let's also put our thinking caps on here and acknowledge the fact that one of those two things, being visibly underweight and being visibly overweight, is heavily valorized and reinforced in our society. One of those things is already considered aspirational and the other one is not. As we've discussed, and I didn't even read the quote because it's really long, but I'll link the study in our description. You can see a very clear tie, again, more for women than for men, on being overweight having a very negative impact on your perception, other people's implicit bias of you, your earning potential, etc. Period. End of story. We also relentlessly mock and scrutinize women who dare to be overweight in public. In fact, when you look at some of like the most aggressively thin celebrities now, many of them were people who were previously relentlessly mocked for being overweight. See also Kelly Osbourne. Like, it is so disingenuous to pretend as though being underweight and being overweight have the same implications in terms of how we perceive them as a society. One of them, aka being overweight, is already torn to shreds and negatively viewed. So pointing that out further, scrutinizing that further, is essentially just piling on. It's punching down. It's kicking.
I'm sorry. Oh, these are multiple examples. Melissa McCarthy, Rebel Wilson, and Lizzo.
Pointing that out further, scrutinizing that further, is essentially just piling on. It's punching down. It's kicking someone when they're down. Like, it is unnecessary because that point is already being made 24/7. Conversely, a woman being extremely thin is celebrated, is normalized, is reinforced socially, financially, and all of the above. I watched almost every season of Emily in Paris, or as I call it, Coco Melon for adults. At no point in that show was anyone ever
It's so bad. I watch Emily in Paris, but I stick a fork in my eye while I watch it, and it's really enjoyable. It's so bad, I can't look away. It's like a car crash. It's like a literal car crash. I can't stop. Oh my God. It's so bad, it's good. It's so bad, though. It's so stupid. It's the stupidest show I've ever seen in my whole life, and it could never replace Sex and the City. Sex and the City is so much better than this, but like, oh my God, Emily in Paris, I can't stop watching, but it's so stupid. Anyways, I get it. Totally with her on this, okay?
addressing the fact that Lily Collins is visibly, scarily, upsettingly underweight.
Okay. You gotta say it like that. That's so triggering, bro. Stop saying it like that. It's fucking triggering. Don't you think? Now I just don't want to eat. I'm gonna starve myself. You're right. I'm gonna starve myself. Girl, this is so triggering. Stop saying this shit. Like, I could just... How would this make people eat more? Like, this just sounds like the same. How would this... You look beautiful, Lily Collins. I really hope, you have a good system around you. You're great. Love you. Good luck. You know what I mean? Damn, girl. You know what I mean? Like, just... We know the girl is struggling. Mind your business. That's what I'm saying. We know she's struggling. Chat said she's been very public with her eating disorders. We know. She knows. We know. We know. You might as well go up to a cancer victim and be like, hey, you're looking pretty thin. Is that chemo really good for you? We know. It's an eating disorder. It's mental health. This is so stupid. This is so stupidly uneducated. I might have to stick a fork in my eye. How can you go up to somebody that's suffering and be like, hey, do you know you're suffering? Let me make it worse. Let me make your suffering worse. And then call myself the good guy. Oh my God.
It was celebrated. She was Carrie Bradshaw chic, wearing all of those high fashion looks that would have probably been perceived as, they were ridiculous on her too, but would have been perceived as
Girl, people are supporting a genocide. People are literally praising a genocide. People suck. Okay? Like, hello? Are you gonna... She's like, oh my God, people are yeah, she's in one of the worst industries ever. She's suffering with an open illness. Like, again, this goes back to the attachment. You can't expect humanity. You can't say in one part, we live in a fascist government. Another part of it, you're like, I can't believe women have anorexia. She's like trying to make this like I support women. But all it is bullying people with eating disorders. This whole video feels like you're bullying people with eating disorders. I feel bullied and I don't even have an eating disorder, but I might get one now. Chelsea's honestly, the intrusive thoughts are loud. I keep having intrusive thoughts while I'm watching this of like, I'm going to get so skinny just to piss off Chelsea Fagan. And I'm like, Brittany, be quiet. I'm a competitive Taurus. Guys. But my intrusive thoughts, I got to assume if my brain is saying it to me and I'm like, girl, that these girls are feeling it too. Listen, when I say that's what therapy is for. So you don't.
Forgivable on someone who didn't have a very visibly underweight BMI. Like, being underweight is considered aspirational, Diva. It's only when we reach the absolute extremes of it, tip over that very invisible line that we talked about at the beginning, that people start to take any kind of an issue with it. And then people relentlessly mock the person who was trying to achieve that thinness. So I don't think it's in any way comparable to comment.
See, she thinks she's not mocking them. But in my brain, I'm like, how do you know you're not mocking people? Like, how do you know this video hasn't been a mockery of those people?
And honestly on one and be more sensitive to the other. I think that's just about acknowledging the reality of the society that we live in. Because let's put it simply, young women, young impressionable girls are not giving themselves debilitating lifelong mental health and physical health disorders in the pursuit of being overweight. They're doing it in the reverse, but they're not doing
what?
To be overweight. Does that happen occasionally? Yes. Is there another problem with getting into all kinds of negative feedback loops with health that lead to being overweight or obese? Absolutely. But that is not an aspirational thing to do. It's not what we're looking at when we see those aspirational ultra thin college girls doing their what I eat in a day videos. Only one is considered a slay. And
Okay. You know what? She's talking societal. But if you go down to cultural, there are some cultural pressures. Okay, I agree, like, media-wise, it's not aspirational, but culturally wise, I think there is a pressure to, like, oh, you're so skinny, eat a burger. Or you're so fat, eat less. And I think culturally there is more of an aspiration to be skinny, even in a Syrian culture away from Hollywood. There's like a need to have like the prettiest daughters or the most handsome sons. And fatness is also seen as like laziness. So there's a lot of fat phobia there. I just think like, I think she's doing like this self-righteous, like, come on now, which I get it. I feel like I'm doing it too in this video a bit, where like we're both sassy, but also like, who am I contributing as well? Like, who is this helping? Who is this content helping? I mean, I hope I'm helping to liberate you from the pressures of feeling any of this is important, but also only from the perspective of you in a better life, not you now. Of course, it's a struggle. Of course, it's important. Of course, it's all you think about. Of course, you're struggling. And also, I want to free you from that pressure because it's so real. It's how we're raised. And yes, it's not just the media, though. Is our family reinforcing that? And yeah, I agree. I just think like obesity is an eating disorder. Like it can be, but not always. And being skinny is an eating disorder, but it doesn't have to be. It just depends on the person. And that's my whole point is like it's person to person and we don't know what's going on. So instead of assuming an eating disorder, which has a huge stigma, instead of a cancer diagnosis, which has a better, like, okay, if Chadwick Boseman had an eating disorder, people would think he was stupid. But because he has cancer, people feel bad. But if he had an eating disorder and died from it, people would be like, what a loser. He's so stupid. Oh my God. And that's the point. The point is, as long as you make fun of people with eating disorders, you're saying you're allowed to suffer the way, like that's what fat phobia is. It's like, oh, you suffer from health issues because you're fat, instead of like, I suffer from health issues and I'm fat. Or, oh, you suffer from health issues. And it's like, you're doing this thing that I think is important, which is like, we don't know. So you are assuming. She said it's common sense. We know with our own eyes, but we don't know why they're skinny. We are assuming so heavily of what is happening. We do not know. We can't actually know. Okay? And yes, we can trust people to tell us, but they might not even know. Just like Chelsea might not even know. So I think the better, more cautioned perspective is, hey, I see something's going on. Was she the best? I don't know what it is. There are a few guesses, but since I don't know which one, whatever it is, I hope you know you're beautiful, you're worthy, you're lovely. You are more than this body that you exist in. You are consciousness. You do exist outside of this body, right? I mean, we're already suffering in these bodies from a disability perspective, from racism perspective, from gender perspectives. And on top of these already fucking issues, now our weight and our health and the way it looks and the way that it exists, I get it. But it just feels like the future is going to be, I support you, not in your self-harm, whatever that might be, if it even exists, but whatever you're going through right now, I hope you get to the other side. Like, I look at Chelsea and I like Chelsea so much. I want to keep watching her content, but I'm really waiting for her to get to the other side of whatever this stage is, because this has been really hard to watch her suffer. She's been openly suffering. I don't know what's going on, of course, and I'm not trying to speculate, but obviously, in my opinion, the content has gone downhill. The attitude has gone worse. She sounds angry and bitter, and I don't know what she's mad at, but she's mad about something. And there's plenty to be mad at, so tell me what it is, girl, and I'll either back you or I'll be like, therapy much? Because there's a genocide to be mad about. There's fascism to be mad about. There's a lot of bigger issues. There's our own struggle in society. There's the capitalism of it all. And maybe she's dealing with something personal, which is fair, but sometimes it does feel like she's blurring the line between the personal and the business, and that I'm confused about why I'm watching as a viewer.
I am aware that even by making this video, I am participating in the quote-unquote discourse of commenting on a woman's body, and so be it. Because I think at some point, these very intentionally evasive commenting on a woman's body slay. And I am aware that even by making this video, I am participating in the quote-unquote discourse of commenting on a woman's body, and so be it. Because I think at some point, these very intentionally evasive platitudes about like, healthy looks different on everyone, or we don't know what someone's doing, or let's not comment on bodies is being used as a cover and as a whitewashing to market and sell and glamorize incredibly sick individuals who are making it seem aspirational to be sick.
Okay. Wasn't the beginning of this video you telling us you lost 20 pounds on a GLP-1? See, this is why people matter at you. You know what I mean? And also, like, those people get to work even if they're sick. What do people with eating disorders not to get to have they can't have jobs now? I get you. I see you. But don't you know they're suffering? So, like, they're not doing it because they think everyone should have anorexia. They just have anorexia and they're working.
To take it back to the Wicked press tour, so much of the discourse was, look how scary they look. Look how upsetting this is. Are they okay? Are they going in and out of the hospital? What's going on? Meanwhile, every magazine had a glamorous photo shoot with them in designer couture. Every red carpet was stopping and...
Look, if they were progressive and deconstructed, I would expect them to say something about it to an extent, and or nobody is owed an explanation. Again, Chadwick Boseman didn't want to tell people why he was losing weight because he was afraid he would lose his job at Marvel and he wouldn't be able to pay for his family's legacy. So you don't know why people are keeping it a secret. Now you might say, oh, these people are wealthy, they have money, they don't have to do this, but then they're just sick. And so now you're just punching down on a sick person.
Tracks to photograph them. In every way, them being at the precipice of serious...
And also, I don't expect them to be more than they are. So none of these people are truly progressive, right? They're definitely people who are like working in non-progressive ways. Sometimes I think sometimes that Chelsea wishes she was them. And then she would make different choices, but she's her now and she's not making different choices, right? Like sometimes I think we're mad. Okay, there's 3 reasons why you're mad at someone. You want them to change and you can't make them change. There's something about them that reminds you of yourself and it's a struggle. Or you're attached to the outcome and the only way to feel like you're doing something about it is to be angry. And so it's like, which one is it, Chelsea? Like, you're obviously angry about something. What are you really angry about? If I was her therapist, which I'm not a therapist, I would say, like, tell me about that. What's so upsetting about this? So you're concerned about young girls and how they feel about their bodies. Why does that upset you? Why does it matter how young girls feel about their bodies? Like, and then we'd go from there to figure out like what's really upsetting you, right?
Yes, serious illness was being celebrated and was being perceived as beautiful and luxurious and aspirational. And
wait, who?
Them. In every way, them being at the precipice of serious illness was being...
Okay, we don't know that. Like, again, she's saying we know that. I don't know nothing. Nobody told me. Did you talk to their doctor? Didn't talk to my doctor. It could be an anorexia. It could be new medication. It could be depression. Maybe somebody in their life died. Like, I don't know that. Do you know that? And I'm not saying this to be like, oh, we don't know. We know something's wrong. We just don't know what it is. Right? Yes, something's wrong. I don't know what it is, though. You sound like my mother. You sound like my mother, bro. Judgy as fuck. You're judging. You're judging. You're not discerning. You're not gaining wisdom. You're just judging. You're judging to condemn. And I'm saying stop judging to condemn and just say, oh yeah, something is wrong. I hope they're okay. Hello?
Celebrated and was being perceived as beautiful and luxurious and aspirational. And it only becomes easier to do that when any rightful...
I'll give you an example. When I was little, there was a family in church. We used to see them all the time, so we knew them a little bit. And one day the dad, he just... overnight almost, guys, it was like overnight, he just grew the biggest belly you've ever seen. And we were like, oh, like, I wonder how he gained that weight. Some people were talking in church and some people were like, oh, he must be eating. But I remember my mom and dad, and my dad goes, I bet it's cancer. My mom goes, yeah, I think he might be sick. And I was like, oh, like it was the first time. I was very, very young when this happened, like really young, where I realized that some people thought he had simply gained weight, but my parents, something in the way they saw, they were like, I think he's sick. Anyways, it ended up being a huge fucking tumor. He ended up having cancer. It was just like the biggest tumor in the world. And I don't know how it happened. It felt like overnight. It probably wasn't. I was a kid. I was really, really young, like 9. I don't know. I was really young. So I don't remember. But I just remember I can see him in my head and his hands on his belly. And I just remember thinking like, and it was a funny shape too. It was a funny shape. So it was like a unique shape. So that was okay. And look, I come from a very judgy family. My parents are very fat phobic. So I also understand that though sometimes they had insightful moments, like, oh, people can be sick. There were also moments where they were like, oh, you've gained too much weight, or, oh, you're too big. You know, so you can be both fat phobic and sometimes very compassionate, but also you can be liberal and mean well, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and end up making a video that's honestly just kind of mean. this is kind of a mean video, you know?
Conversation around what is happening with their bodies is shut down out of hand because you can't comment on a woman's body. Or they can gaslight us in real time by telling us that they're actually healthy. They've never been healthier. They're eating cheeseburgers and salmon rice bowls and a slice of chocolate cake for dessert. No, you are not, because we are not idiots. And we as women are not going to be fed this nonsense and told that if we in any way question it, that we're just being misogynist.
Sure, like that part is bad. Like them, you know, like, hey, okay, but can I just say, this just sounds like the opposite of those gym bros I see that are like, you keep telling me you're in a calorie deficit, but you can't be because you're still fat. Look, dude, I know you think you're in a calorie deficit. Let's count your calories. Hey, dude, I know you probably are enjoying like some form of food and all of this stuff, but like, again, this is very personal shit. So if my friend came to me, actually, fuck my friends. I'll use myself as an example. For a long time, I kept telling my partner, I'm not losing weight and my body comp isn't changing and I'm really fucking annoyed. And I had been doing this for months. And he was like, bro, you got to count calories. I was like, oh, it's too much work. I don't want to do it. And he's like, well, you're probably eating more than you think. I was like, no, there's impossible. I cannot be eating this much. And he's like, I think you are. And I'm like, no. And then I was like, oh, I'm so annoyed. So then 2 months ago, that's when I started counting calories again. And yeah, I was eating too much. And I was like, damn, I can really eat, bro. I can really eat. Okay, my bad. So then I was like, okay, I got this. So again, I upped my volume of food, but I lowered my my calorie intake. And that's what I did. So I changed my diet around to be able to eat more food, less calories. Okay. So I've been eating a fuck ton, but they just not as calorie dense. That's it. That's all I switched. I switched to like veggies and fruits on mat. I just went crazy on the veggies, which is easy. I'm vegan, you know, are plant-based, right? So easy peasy lemon squeezy. Okay. But he was right. Like I wasn't paying attention, and all of a sudden I was eating like an extra 500 calories a day. That like it shows up, guys. You could have a spoonful of pistachio butter, you're fucked. And that's what I would do. I would eat like toast and pistachio butter, but then the pistachio butter would have like a lot of calories, and you're like, my bad. And then it happens so fast. It's so easy to overeat because it tastes good and you want to eat. So again, like. It's so easy. And that's why I say, like, I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad. You know what I mean? Because they're struggling. It's a struggle. And it just feels like, yeah, I agree that Chelsea's right, that there is a little bit of like fibbing about people's diets in the world. And I also think it's just like more than food. I think it's just therapy. Again, I'm waiting for her to recommend a therapist. Where's your mental health suggestion, Chels? Where's your, hey girls, you can do this. Like, go to the doctor. Like, where's your encouragement, you know?
No, actually, I think I'm being, if anything, protective over the many young, impressionable girls who are scrolling Skinny Talk as we speak, looking for tips on how to look like these sick women.
Okay, can I just tell you something? I do look at Skinny Talk. I look at Gym Talk. I look at every talk. Here's what gets me inspired when I look at people. I look at people and I say, okay, I watch the Skinny Talk girls and I'm just like, what I'm doing is I'm jumping into their bubble. And I can see the unhealthiness of it. And I can see why people aspire for it. And I ask myself, like, is this what you want? And I'm like, honestly, no. But I can see why people like it. But I don't think this is what I want. I think this is what I understand is trending for some people. It always has been. I'm a 90s kid. I get it. But I also know that I was never, ever skinny enough. I always had a big butt. I always had boobs. Like I was never skinny enough. I could never do heroin chic. Even at my thinnest, even at 105, I was never skinny enough. Because my body, the way my body looks, my boobs are too big. Like I never had it. Trust me, when the Kardashians became popular, I was in. I was fucking in. Okay? So I could never pull it off anyways. I can't look like what's her name? Emily in Paris, Lily Collins. I can never look like that. Now, if I got a breast reduction and I got maybe my butt taken out or something, you know what I mean? Like some of my friends who have my body shape, very similar, pear shape, they hate that their butt never gets smaller, no matter how much they work out. Versus I want to get it bigger. So I'm embracing it. I'm like, bigger is better. And my friends are trying to get the smallest. And I'm just saying, sometimes you're not happy with the body you're given, but it doesn't represent you. I know you might not be like, this isn't how I feel. You might have gender dysphoria, body dysmorphia. You might have all kinds of relationships with your body. But I first want you to understand in an embodied way, you are more than your body. You are so much more than your body. And I understand the pressures of existing in a body. It's a lot of fucking work, you know?
Because trust me, every, in my opinion, terrifying photo that we looked at the beginning of this video of these women looking visibly, scarily ill, those can easily be found on any Thinspo page on any of your favorite social media platforms. Young girls find this aspirational and they want to learn how to do it. I'm going to end this video by saying the following. It is completely right and valid, and in my opinion, a normal human reaction to be utterly terrified at the rise of female celebrities looking beyond ill on the red carpet and not being normalized or celebrated. Yes. I think it is also disingenuous and unfair and at best incomplete to blame that on GLP-1s entirely, or to stigmatize that entire class of drugs as a result of some people misusing them, period. Third, we are still in a situation in America where the vast majority of Americans barely have access to healthy food. Let's start there. And are being constantly pushed the food that will addict us and make us sick and keep us on the hook for incredibly declining health outcomes, especially as we age. And by the way, you don't necessarily have to be an overweight or obese BMI to be suffering from a lot of these ill health outcomes. And on the flip side, being really thin, especially in the way a lot of these women are doing it, has absolutely nothing to do with health and is the opposite of health. Orthorexia be damned. But that is also part of it. And it is not inherently misogynist to remark on when women are marketing and glamorizing an extremely unhealthy ideal. And it is.
I don't think that's what's happening here. I don't think she exhibited properly any woman who was doing that. I think she could try to make the argument, but she didn't this whole video. So I think she should sit with that thought. You need to meditate on why you thought that was happening, because I did not get any, I haven't gotten any of those messages. The only person was maybe Serena Williams, because she did a sponsorship for GLP-1, but she's Serena fucking Williams and her body wasn't scarily thin. And her language here has been very inappropriate. Chat said, I don't understand why everything about looks and beauty is always to be taken to the extreme. Looks maxing, skinny talk, all these trends. Why do people always take it too far? Hustle, grind culture. You're the next millionaire, billionaire. If you're not a millionaire in America, you're stupid. You know, human beings go to extremes because it sells things. The more extreme you are, the more exaggerated you are, the more people think it's interesting and they want to try it. So it's just capitalism. Yeah, Chad said capitalism. It's just capitalism. It's marketing. It's exaggeration. It's my partner and I were just talking about the CEOs eating hamburgers, and we were brainstorming on, do you think the McDonald's CEO ate the burger first and really fucked up, and then all the CEOs jumped on it? Or do you think they were all in the same marketing room together and they're like, okay, McDonald's, you take the pussy bite. The rest of you take the big boy bites. Jack in the Box, go ahead and show us your arms. Like, is that what, you know what I mean? Is that what happened? And I think that's the thing, is like, you don't know when the marketing stops and ends and begins. But that's why you have to deconstruct capitalism from your consumption, because you have to understand, like, is this the capitalism of it all, or is this something different? And you don't know until you know, right?
Here's a message for all major brands. Stop putting your CEOs on camera. They're not even attractive.
Stupid. Get off my page. Anyways, the point is, listen, whether you like it or not, what Chelsea's really upset with is not the girls who are victims in this marketing trouble, whatever issue. It's the system. She's mad at the system and she's taking it out on the victims of the system. Very liberal of you, Chelsea. You know what I mean? Very conservative of you. These women are victims of a really terrible bubble. I would hate to be any of these women. It would be such a struggle. And I'm so glad that as a YouTuber, thank you guys for being here and being members, I get to not worry about what I look like. You know, not to the extent anyone else, not any more than anybody else, like in terms of being groomed or hygienic, like, yeah, but I'm so lucky that I make a full-time living and I pay my bills and I'm able to do my dream job by looking exactly the way I want to show up on stream. Thank you. I think that's where I'd like Chelsea to get. That's where I'd like all people to get, is to be able to do a job that within reason they show up and look presentable at, but it doesn't eat at their soul.
Is not the same thing as mocking a woman for daring to be overweight in the public space. Those are two very different things. I think all of these things can coexist. All of them can have nuance, and we can use our common sense for every step of that process. God. But that at least partially means shutting down the nonsense,
If she says common sense one more time, I'm going to assume she voted for Trump. Dead ass. Dead ass, okay? If she says that one more time, I'm just gonna
down the gaslighting and shutting down the intentional dishonesty around what's actually happening on both sides of the extremes. Anyway, guys, thank you for bearing with me through that real minefield of a topic. I hope you guys won't be that mad at me. I sense some of you will, but I'll live with it. Bye.
This is a Wendy's, Chelsea. Okay, let's read the comments. You know they're gonna be good. Okay, so this one, Chelsea obviously said, you guys are being mean. They said, in my eyes, the judgment links back to fat phobia. Gaining weight is a character flaw in the eyes of many. They feel you should do things with much more difficulty to prove again through the struggle and the grind of natural weight loss. Then your character is redeemed. I think that's a big part of it too. I agree. Huge props for transparency. Okay, thank you, Chelsea, for this. Damned if you're fat, damned if you lose weight in the wrong way. But that doesn't she get it though? You losing weight on a GLP-1 is giving in to the same thing those women are giving into when it's the same thing. You are Lily Collins. That's what I'm saying. Like, she's Lily Collins. That's what she's not getting. The same thing that made you want to lose that weight in that way is the same thing that makes those girls say skinny at any cost. And I'm saying, is it worth the cost? You know? Let's see. She liked this one. Says, I have a diagnosed ED that nearly killed me, and the color is my perspective on this. A coworker of mine, older male, had recently lost significant weight, 50 pounds, through the use of Ozempic, as well as restricted diet and exercise, but he will publicly eagerly talk about how the weight loss was accomplished through good old discipline, just exercise and diet. Well, how does she know he took his Ozempic? How does she know that? I won't deny that some people have serious health problems that can be solved through these drugs, but when people lie about their use, it perpetrates the idea that if you're not skinny, it's because you're simply lazy and undisciplined. Okay, hold on. First, I don't know how she knows that about her coworker. Second, don't you think that's just mental health? Like, you guys are saying, oh, these people are lying, they're deceiving you. They're embarrassed. And they're embarrassed because we live in a society that punishes people for their choices. Chelsea's punishing Lily Collins and Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, and Chelsea's audience is punishing her, and I'm punishing myself by watching this video, and you know, we're all punishing each other, and I'm saying maybe just stop punishing each other, because I don't know there's no other solution here, girls. Okay, let's say chat says they've brought back heroin chic and they're pretending it's healthy. At least in the 90s, no one pretended it had anything to do with health. I don't know what 90s you grew up in. That is not true. Like, I don't think that's true. The 90s was very much about, like, be healthy, workout videos. Like, everything was about workout culture. Like, sure, like, it was drug culture, but that was the celebrity part. What about all those diet Atkins, all those diets? You know what I mean? What do you mean? Okay. So, yeah, obviously there's problems here. There's so much to be talked about. But I do think it's important that Chelsea understand that a lot of this feels, like, personal and projected. Right? I don't know. Oh, hold on. She liked this comment, said, I've been saying Ariana and Cynthia have eating disorders for years, but every time Stans accuse me of body shaming, it's so exhausting. We can't have a productive conversation about health and celebrity influence without people projecting their own body issues with being skinny onto them. So Chelsea liked that comment. Chat said it's because Cynthia never did before Wicked, whereas Ariana always has. Cynthia was an athlete in every sense, even running the New York Marathon. Okay, well, guys, can I just say something? Again, I think this is like a part that's being missed. One of the reasons I could never be a high performer at that rate, I mean, Cynthia's doing 8 hours of makeup. Is she eating for those 8 hours? Just like process this information with me. So she goes into work and does 8 hours of makeup for Wicked, right? And then she films for another 5 or 6 or 8 hours, right? When is she eating? Also, she does work out, right? So she's on an intermittent fasting or calorie deficit because her job doesn't give her time to eat, right? So then, you know, you do that for a few years. I kind of think it would make sense that she would lose significant weight. You know what I mean? So then I feel like people aren't thinking about, like, not everything is an eating disorder, but sometimes disordered eating can happen because of your job, or maybe you can end up starving because of your job. Like, I feel like there's a lot of things that play into this that people aren't thinking about. Maybe she is sick. Maybe she's living her best life until she dies. Maybe something is wrong. I just don't know what it is. Something isn't great, but I don't know what it is. Okay? So again, I don't know exactly what people are sure they know about. Now, this comment here says Cynthia did not change her physique until 8 or 9 months after the Wicked movies were fully done. She changed in the lead up to her next film, Children of the Blood and Bone, possibly for the aesthetic she imagined the role. Now, maybe that's it. Maybe Cynthia was actually chilling because I watched the Wicked movies and I did not think the girls looked too thin. I was waiting because everyone told me, oh my God, the movie's crazy. Ariana's so skinny in that movie. I watched it and I was like, I don't know, bro. They look way skinnier in these weird edited pictures on the internet. But that was for the press tour. So the movie had been done filming. So maybe Cynthia lost all that weight for the next role she was going to do. Right? I don't know. And the point is like, we're saying we know. So Chelsea says, it's common sense. We obviously know. And I'm saying, I have guesses. I don't know. I have guesses. I don't know. Because knowing is different than guessing, is different than having faith, is different than believing. I don't know, but I believe something's going on. I don't know, but I have faith in my judgment and what my eyes tell me that I believe something's going on, right? Something like that, but I don't know. And the fact that I don't know means, I don't know. This obsession with we know, it's common sense. I can see with my eyes. I won't be gaslit. I won't be gaslit into thinking I know something I don't. Because I already grew up religious. I'm not about to do that again.